Hey, it's John Carlos here once again with
Eddie. Can you hear
um,
me?
I can hear you.
Good.
Um, and we watched season 3 of Hannibal. We watched the whole goddamn series.
I'm sad.
Well, I'm sad that it's over. And now that I've allowed myself to read about. Well, first let me say this up front. There were a few things that I knew that I wouldn't dare share with you beforehand. But like I knew, I read some things about how like he had like a 7-season plan,
I found that afterwards, yeah.
and I know that the goal was, and this is back like when I was watching season 2 or ended season 1. I knew like the game plan was, I want to get to Red Dragon, I want to get to Silence, I want to include Hannibal. I'm like, okay, cool. And then
hmm
unfortunately, like I sort of read something about how season 3 includes Red Dragon, but
hmm
like I didn't read like an article so much as I just sort of was vaguely aware that that might have been true. And when this season started with essentially Hannibal, with a little bit of Hannibal Rising sprinkled in, I was like, oh, so it's not Red Dragon this season. Cool. And then it turns out it's fucking both. Um, but yeah, like I had this vague knowledge that it hasn't been renewed. They didn't get to do Silence. And now I know that like they'd love to continue if they could. They're like the dream is like if Netflix could do it. But I think like CBS has the rights to Silence, so like there has to be some rights issues in order to get Clarice.
That was
So
something they said in the Paley Fest after the second season. Lawrence Fishburne, Mads, Hugh, and what is Alana's acting name? I can't remember right now. But Alana, the one from Wonder Falls. They all came, and he talked about the 7-season plan. He also talked about how there's somebody asked, like, are we going to get a Clarice ever? There are a lot of women in the audience. You could tell they were just like chomping on the bit, like, please, more women. I mean, we love the show, but more women on screen, and we want Clarice. And I understand. I share their sentiment. But he said around the time of the first season, he asked, and it was an unequivocal no. And then after the second season, or during the second season, they asked, and it was an unequivocal no, almost an insulted, irritated kind of no, like, stop asking. And this wasn't even CBS. This was like Thomas Harris and his people directly.
oh, okay.
And then around the third season, they said, ask us again next year.
And then there was
So, yeah, well, and there was no next year. And I still haven't gotten to the heart of why exactly they went the route they went. I know that season 3 was originally supposed to be kind of like all Europe and all that kind of background. And as they were mapping it out, it looked like it was just going to be a lot of filler. And Bryan Fuller felt that 13 episodes is too many for filler, like especially with the track record that this series had earned among critics and among its viewing audience, who were very loyal. Fannibals were very much a thing. It's certainly at the time of this Paley Fest that I was watching on YouTube, which everybody can watch. Go for it. It's so much fun. Oh my God, they're so adorable. But what was cool was finding out that like Bryan Fuller decided, well, my idea for season 4 was originally going to be Red Dragon, so why don't we just combine them? Which I'm really, really glad they did, because I want to say hands down, I don't even think I completed the first episode before I felt like this is my favorite season. Something about, okay, let's get into it. Something about the style and about the free pace. I don't think you could open the show this way. I don't think, and get away with it necessarily. I feel like some people would be on board, but particularly for a network show, I don't know how many people would be along for that kind of ride, that kind of character-oriented, kind of like moving through paintings. Like every vista is a full-on mural, and I mean it's literally a mural depicting a mural, but with our characters set against it. It's hard to articulate because on one hand, I'm very tired, but on another, I feel like it shouldn't be articulated. It should just be viewed. I feel like fans who have been along for the ride, particularly people like me who found some like rough spots in season 2. It was so worth it getting to season 3 because for a multitude of reasons, but just seeing life in Italy and watching Hannibal at this particular point in his life with so much history that he's already established with us as the audience and with other characters. We don't need background anymore. And also we know these people well enough that literally we can devote scene after scene after scene to what feels like maybe nothing that's all that plot driven. We're not working to hustle quite so hard. I think maybe it would have been a lot for an entire season, but the first, I think, 6 episodes that it happens, I was there for it. I actually was kind of upset when around, I think it's episode 3, we started kind of going back to the United States and seeing, even though I was very happy to see people survive and whatnot, I was worried, oh, are we going to go back to the to the procedural thing? Because I don't think I can. I love Italy too much.
And no, they really don't.
And no, and they didn't, because also the way, just watching the way Alana and Chilton speak to each other, it's 3 years later, and it's like you feel those 3 years. You feel so much behind not what these people are saying, but just behind the way they are around each other. So you don't have to write much. But then once Will got reintroduced, and started getting back into the mix and started seeing things again, I was like, oh, that glorious pace I fell in love with in Italy is back. So that was my first impression.
I'm happy that I don't think I really lingered on this enough in the first 2 season discussions, but besides the mood and the dialogue, there's something about the way the show's photographed. There's really smart people on the production team creating, in my opinion, a show that feels more like what I'm used to seeing. I don't like to differentiate between like cable and network, but sometimes you just kind of fucking gotta, because certain things like HBO don't have to respond to, they don't have to deal with advertisers. So there's a lot more just sort of artistic license to do whatever you want. Hence all the boobs and cussing and wieners. And but there is something about a lot of what also the speed at which maybe network shows have to maintain within like an 8-day shooting cycle or whatever to try to get something going. But Hannibal looks to me unlike anything you're seeing on network TV. I would completely believe that little burn in HBO or Showtime in the corner and go, yeah. But this show, I think it was like in the first episode, it's just Gillian Anderson like on the way to the market, and it's just this lovely city with this huge lens, and you can see all the buildings behind her, and it starts
in Paris, France. I wrote that down and I forgot because Italy completely overshadowed everything for me.
Right. But
France was Paris. Yes. But any of it, and I'll take in all of it.
But yeah, the general vibe once we get to the U.S., there's still, I mean, the dialogue already is full of non-normal sounding cadences in the way people speak and the way people think. The dialogue always to me sounds like poetry. It sounds, everyone's speaking in fucking riddles. If someone asks a question, they just get a question back. It's like 4 or 5 questions. But it's great. It's awesome. And in that same regard, there's a visual poetry to a lot of, especially season 2 really cranked up a lot of just imagery that dissolve here and a thing here and a slow motion this. And season 3 didn't lose any of that, even getting to play with its own visual sumptuousness in Europe. It brought its own rhythm back to the because again, even the Manhunter half, it's no longer just, oh, there's been a murder, let's go look.
Yeah.
So happy that Hannibal is not a show that I crack open and swig. It is something that I hold and swirl and then
Mm-hmm.
and this show still gave me that this season. So
Yes. Well, I'm also glad that you brought up the dialogue because I was watching late one night, and I don't know if I've mentioned before to the audience, but I've got my mom living with me, and she was asleep, and I didn't want her. I didn't know if we were going to get dramatic stings or anything like that, but I wanted to watch. You know, it was late, and so I played it, and I played with the subtitles with the sound low. Oh my God, I'm glad I did because um, this was somewhere in like maybe the first two episodes. There were a lot of dialogue scenes between Hannibal and Bedelia where literally, if I didn't have the subtitles on for the reason I had them on, I would have had to turn them on because literally they're just murmuring to each other.
oh
Like
yeah,
he's literally, and she's just like, and it's like, I tried turning it up a bit, and I'm like, just to see, can I it seems like there should be just default subtitles. They're not even speaking another language, but there's just the intimacy of just like, and then you know, like the city behind them, and just, and I didn't care. I was still so happy. I also just like lines like Hannibal when he's defining cannibalism for Bedelia
mm-hmm.
and for us, just saying it's only cannibalism if we're equals. Which explains so much about like how he's able to. I mean, it's not just rude people and like taking vengeance out. They're subhuman. They're not
Right.
even people. But
But
I
that's
love
not
that.
cannibalism. Yeah.
Right. I also love the fact that we find out. Oh my God! All these sequences with now I'm getting excited because all the sequences where Hannibal is still cooking up a storm for all these like professors and whatnot, and Bedelia has this odd voyeurism
Mm-hmm.
while participating. It's like she's sitting on the boundary. She won't quite make up her mind which side she falls on. She's not an active participant in that. She's participating in the killing of these people and then the feeding off of them. But she's also not, you know, she's a co-conspirator because she's letting it happen. She's watching it happen. And I can tell she's not comfortable a lot of the time experiencing that. Even the way she eats all the seafood that he prepares for her, she doesn't enjoy it. She's not sitting there eating
Right.
oysters, enjoying herself. I always feel tension from her. Also, it helps for me because seafood imagery makes me uneasy because I don't like seafood. But
Me neither.
yeah, but just watching her discomfort with while eating these oysters, and just like the way she'll cast glances at Hannibal and at, you know, a potential victim, and the way he'll look at her like, yes, that's right, that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I'm going to do, and you knew it. And like almost like he's rubbing her nose in it, and it's so I mean, we'll jump around. One of the things I really fucking loved about this season was the rivalry really getting played on between Bedelia and Will.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! Like that's one thing that I don't
About like
believe is Red Dragon or Manhunter, but because I don't remember a Bedelia. I
no.
don't. Okay, so there you go. That's one element that I was. Whenever there's, the first time he was sitting there with her, I was leaning in, going, "Why are you with Bedelia?" He had already pledged to kind of cut himself off from all of that, and was kind of moving in a direction towards like extricating Hannibal from his life or himself from Hannibal's life or whatever. And I just felt like this is just one more way to keep
Yeah.
yourself in the circle, in the loop, because at least you have someone to talk about him with over and over and over again, and even compare notes, because I feel like there's another part of him that suspects maybe there's something with both of them. I feel like they both suspect that the other one might have been the one
Right.
to cross through, you know, cross the boundary and really consume Hannibal. And they have this really unhealthy curiosity about well, what did you do? What was that like? Well, I mean, they don't straight out ask it like that, but it's there. Like that energy is there. It'd be as unhealthy as if I broke up with somebody, met up with an ex who I knew was their ex, and just started having lunches with them where all we do is discuss them and what we did with them,
That's an interesting
just to find
metaphor.
out. Yeah,
I had a
and
similar one. It's not, yours is more direct than mine. I just remember thinking the connection of like, you've moved on. You're in a new relationship, you've moved on. But still, sometimes when you can't sleep in the middle of the night, I'm just going to see what they're up to on Facebook and just find them on Instagram.
yes.
I just want to know. And this is like his way of still kind of having like a pinky. You're through the door, but your pinky still kind of looks in. You're dipping your toe in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
because I
it
remember
works for
when I
Bedelia
first saw
too.
them, in fact, it was maybe even the second time or third time where I'm like, why the fuck are you, like, her? She's your therapist? And then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, no, Will. Of course she's your therapist. Of course you went. Also, besides just that self-induced pain of wanting that connection still, was also who else has shared similar enough an experience that who knows
Mm-hmm.
and understands exactly what you're talking about. So like,
Mm-hmm.
of course you're seeing her.
That said, his first scene back with Alana was potent because number one, Alana tied the knot and put a ring on it and has a son now with Catherine Isabel, with Margot.
Yeah, so Margot's
And
got her own nephew.
right.
Yeah.
And but it was so interesting to watch them because I felt like I was excited because the show's only getting gayer, but also it literally felt like Hannibal, I won't say Hannibal because I don't believe that, but I mean, kind of like his presence in their lives had made them both gayer. Like kind of at least been enough of a catalyst to move Will closer to that and move Alana further away from it. She even said in the Paley Fest, she was asked about like her direction that she takes, and she had to be vague because she couldn't talk about the direction she takes in season 3. But she said just the kinship that she finds with Margot is something that makes sense to her because they're surrounded by men, these toxic men. Yeah. And she was glad that if they had to find somebody in any of these scripts, that they at least found somebody who understood exactly what they had been through and could kind of be like their solace. And the fact that they both, I mean, we're really jumping around, but that they both get to walk away at the end. They both get to just like walk away from that estate. And I always assumed get on a plane, go somewhere where nobody knows them, or maybe where one of them has roots, maybe Alana, but just someplace that's away from all this time in their lives.
I imagine an island
like
for some reason. An island with a nice little estate on it. And the one thing, I'm glad the show never, because the show's far too smart to do this, but that narrow reverse 90s point of view of like, well, all you need is a man is like, all you need is like a bad man to be like, bah, I'm done with Wiener and now I'm a lesbian. I'm like, well, no. I mean, did she ever have bisexual tendencies? Sure, we don't know. Does she identify herself on any part of a spectrum as this or that? No, whatever. But like you said, she found someone that she has a shared understanding of experiences, and they both find something, and that goes above a label. And it's funny that you mentioned it, because to me that's the greater theme of the whole show. And Margot and Alana are just another example of Will and Hannibal, in that aren't we all just looking for someone who understands? That's all we really want, right? Is someone who gets us, somebody who understands us, and finding that partner. And and I mean that shit's been brewing since season 1. But I mean, the climax of the season, without labeling it as anything, I mean, it is a love story. It's always been a love story. I won't. I'm not labeling it as anything particularly sexual, so much
Mm-mm.
as it's just
Even though it got me there.
yeah. Actually, something popped in my head, and I'll ask you later when it's more relevant.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's undeniable. Now we're jumping because I'm jumping all the way to the very last minute of the show, but that fucking embrace and like his head on his fucking chest, and I just went like, this is. I felt like I've been in a weird way, like I felt satisfaction that Hannibal got something that he's been wanting for literally years.
Both of them.
Well,
Both of
and I
them.
mean, yeah, that was my greatest thing was the first half of the season. Because every season I have like a new worry about Will. Like this is what I'm worried about right now. Season 1, like he's getting lost. Season 2,
Mm-hmm.
this season, I'm worried that like as he's going to Europe, as he's going to dig around for Hannibal's history, is Will's bond and affection for Hannibal
Mm-hmm.
going to be his undoing, or as usual, is this all a lie? So I was so satisfied with the end of the Hannibal storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest satisfaction in that, like, you know what? Like, I'm good. Like, I don't need you no more. I don't need this. And I'm like, ooh, that's great. So now the second half of the season then becomes as you've gotten out and as you've gotten away. Now my new worry is like, how much do you let your ex back into your heart? How much has he been gone this whole time?
Yeah.
So by the time we get to this fight between the two of them and the Red Dragon, literally them slaying the dragon together,
Yeah.
the second they're just heaving there,
Yeah.
wet with blood. I'm just like, they're gonna hug, they're gonna embrace,
Mm.
but the second they went in for the embrace, I'm like, you're gonna push him off that fucking cliff. And then they stayed in it. I went, oh, you're not going to allow yourself to have this, though. You're going to stab him or something. And right when I was thinking,
Right.
like, a knife's going to come out, instead, the two of them go together. And
That was the biggest shock, was the
yeah,
fact that one, I
but
was wondering which
but
one is going to push which one. The fact that they went together was so satisfying. One of
right,
the most
especially
beautiful things I've seen in a
well,
television show.
we just had, I
Oh,
think, in the same episode, the episode prior, "Can't Live with Him, Can't Live Without Him," and that is literally like
mm-hmm.
Will's choice in that moment.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so very satisfying.
Mm.
No, I mean, I'll just jump. Let's just fucking jump around. Oh god.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I remember thinking, and maybe we'll talk more about what do I want to get? Chilton, right?
Yeah.
Chilton, yeah.
Relish
Chilton.
Barza?
Yeah. When
Yeah.
he's in the chair and they're doing the whole thing in his house, he's shirtless. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember Dollarhide is shirtless. And he's basically in like little like black trunks, and he puts in his teeth and he fucking like crawls across the table at him. And I remember thinking, what if Eddie likes this? something about that fucking crawl. He fucking just crawl. I'm like, it's not my thing, but I feel like if it was my thing, this might be a thing for me right now. No?
Well, this is the thing about call him what you will, Francis, Red Dragon, Tooth Fairy, D. I liked D because it's what I keep wanting to call her Tara from True Blood.
Well, I didn't even look up her name every time. I just kept calling her Tara.
Yes, but she's not Tara. What is her name? I want to.
Yeah, I'm an asshole for not looking it up.
Rutina Wesley is the actor as Reba.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't ever move out of a place of being worried for her. That was probably the closest thing for me that I carried from I saw the Red Dragon incarnation to this. Didn't really go anywhere new for me that I can remember off the top of my head. The only the real bonus for me with that was seeing Rutina play Reba. I love her. I mean, she's just another case of like a character who effortlessly plucks the strings of my heart with when she hurts, I hurt. When she cries, I cry. When she's scared, I'm scared. She's so good casting again. Like, oh my God, the casting across the board. Oh, we'll talk about that. But I never felt like maybe the first establishing shot we got when we knew we were going into Red Dragon territory, and then it's just a question of, well, how much is it? Because I think we had 6 episodes left, and this was like the first of 6, and I was wondering, we could conceivably offer like a good long feature-length Red Dragon 3 episodes and then do like a Silence 3 episodes, but I don't know I don't think we're going there. I don't know where we're going. And then when I think that the giveaway, sorry, I'll get back to Tooth Fairy in a second, but the giveaway for me that like this is probably not going to end the same way as Red Dragon did was when he went after Will's wife and stepson way too early. I was like, oh, we're doing this now.
Yeah, there was a lot of
possibly.
Oh, this is happening here, and then this is actually over.
Exactly.
Huh.
So we can't possibly do this later. So because it'll feel too repetitive. It might, and the show hasn't felt too repetitive up until this point. It just doesn't feel in the show's nature. So we'll probably do something else. I don't even want to think about it. I'm too busy just like watching how
they introduced Reba really early too.
Yeah.
Really
early. In answer to your question, the only time I felt even a remote attraction to Francis might have been his first establishing shot when he's just there in boxer briefs flexing a lot. But the problem is it lasted like all of 2 seconds with me going, impressive.
And then he opens his mouth and you find out who he is.
No, it wasn't even him opening his mouth. It was me realizing what I was watching because I've seen Red Dragon, so I know what he's doing. He's transmorphing. He's gestating. He's, hoping to become a chrysalis and a dragon chrysalis and emerge and shit. So I'm just like, that doesn't turn me on. That has never turned me on. That's always scared me shitless. So no, when he that whole scene also because Raul Esparza as Chilton still delivering his reveal. Okay, we'll get to both of them, but his reveal just when he's there with Mason, and he takes his contact out and his eyes starts drooping, and he takes the teeth out and he takes the putty off of his wound or whatever. Ugh! I'm sorry, I mean, I shouldn't do that. That's so mean. But it's not an app. I'm not sitting there going, hell yeah, take off that putty. I'm sitting there going, oh, you poor thing. And then to see him seeing him hold his own intestine in season 1, seeing him acquire all those wounds in season 2, and now in season 3, he's the one glued to the wheelchair. He's the one. I still kind of I like him better than the other Chilton, the Chilton that I got in Red Dragon and in Silence of the Lambs, because he always felt like a tool. Like he never dimensionalized for me. Raul Esparza's Chilton. Yeah. But Raul Esparza's Chilton, while a prick, is a watchable prick.
Right. No. Prick. I can laugh with what he's doing, enjoy his choices, and just yes, absolutely. The other Chiltons I've ever seen are always just assholes to a certain degree.
And I derive no pleasure from anything in that scene. I just felt bad. I felt bad for Chilton. I felt really bad.
Yeah. First of all, just a little thing, but in Skyfall, not a spoiler because it has nothing to do with the main story, but his, I forgot his name because I get older and I forget names. But the villain of that movie has like
I could help.
From No Country for Old Men.
Javier
Bardem has like an artificial tooth and cheek implant that he pulls out and you see it sag. And no offense to anyone who worked on that movie, but I just remember going like, it just felt very fakey, and I didn't believe that much would melt under the support of this. and just kind of pulled me out of the moment. And then the second he reached in Hannibal to do it, I'm like, oh God. And then I saw the way his face drooped, and I went, I totally believe this. Props to the VFX team. It was just sublime. It was excellent work. Especially when I have a precedent of like not wanting to see it because I find it to be fakey. They made it not fakey. Yeah, I had like sometimes, again, I write little notes throughout the show, and I remember for episode 4, because we talked before how I said even though Chilton got shot in the face, he's not fucking dead. He just went through his teeth. Right. Chilton, yeah. I fucking knew it. Great, and it just becomes almost like a mean-spirited from the outside looking in, just sort of like fuck it, like every season we're just gonna do that fucker's gonna keep living, and we're gonna take from this man, and he's just gonna have to keep on trucking. And the fact that they lit him on fire after biting his lips off, which was its own special thing, because I don't know how much you remember from the Red Dragon movie, both Manhunter and Red Dragon, and I think the original book, that is Freddie Lounds' fate.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting that they used it as a fake out with Lounds, and to do it again, but now to make it be like a mirrored intent. That was fun. But the fact that he fucking survives that is the cruelest. Like, if we were going to do a season 4, like,
how?
Yeah.
Like if Hannibal grabbed a limb or survived the fall or whatever, and we brought him back, which, just sidebar, Mads did the convention circuit right after season 2, and I think he did it again after season 3. There's a lot of footage on YouTube of him at the various conventions. Loves and interacting with fans and everything like that, as much as I can tell, and kind of has started pushing for a season 4, because they did have a 7-season plan. Doesn't mean they have to have 7 seasons now, because obviously I feel like the way season 3 ends now was not the original plan for the season finale of season 4. And I really, I still don't know exactly what inspired Bryan Fuller to make that choice, and I really want to know. So I have to buy those Blu-rays and watch the commentaries and just uncover every interview I can until I find the answer. But if Hannibal, this is another thing about like the eye drooping on Chilton too. Even if it isn't entirely plausible, I don't care at this stage, because anything the show is going to do, it only builds my intrigue. They haven't really let me down with their plot choices or even the devices that they use. I mean, there's been a bump or two in the road, but nothing that makes me pull away from the show as far as the production team and the writers are concerned. So, I mean, Chilton, eye drooping, I'll take it. Hannibal surviving the fall, I'm fine with it. I don't want Will to. Which probably sounds cruel, but I don't want him to, especially if there's going to be a Clarice. There's got to be a reason for Hannibal to need somebody else.
Well, and also, how much do you want Will lingering into that? I like this season a lot, but it took a lot for me. There's a lot of weird mental stuff for me, having already experienced and already having such a deep affection for Manhunter, and only having that version of it, knowing that story and seeing Hannibal play much more of a role in this story, and to have, like Alana and other characters and other factors. You're still following the story, but you're also expanding on with Bedelia. So there's all these new elements. There's a lot of little mental hoops. Same thing with the first half. Not like I'm complaining, but just new elements over a story that I already know, and how much I can give myself over to this version of it, and how much am I thinking about and comparing and contrasting. I don't know how I could do something like Silence of the Lambs and having Will now lingering over parts of the story. So I kind of see the idea, like you're right, of like not having Will survive.
Right.
Especially if this is the choice he makes. It's a bummer that the choice he makes maybe ultimately fails as far as ending. But he's certainly ending the relationship in the
And also,
But
well, I mean,
leaving your wife and your kid behind, I don't know. That's
oh, okay.
rough. I don't
I,
imagine. I imagine the boat surviving was my.
I, I
'Cause
don't want.
I don't imagine Silence being season 4. And in fact, the thing that interests me more is if there was a 7-season plan. I'm curious about these other 3 seasons that aren't the books,
Yeah, yeah.
because I actually found ultimately more interesting stuff in seasons 1 and 2 than I did with season 3, because I just knew so much of what was happening in season 3.
Well, I mean, again, like the front load of the first half, the fact that it was so, um, I just, I was in awe. I have absolute respect for, I mean, you know me, as far as subjectivity in film and now
Mm.
television, and directors who aren't afraid to take their time with something, because it didn't feel like filler to me, but it sure didn't feel like it was rushing to get to anything. It felt more like the first episode in particular, I think I wrote somewhere, it just felt like being inside of a kaleidoscope, disorienting and fuzzy and not connected to reality, because that's not where Bedelia and Hannibal live. And it, I don't know. I'm not going to share too much, but there was something about Hannibal as a lure in this entire season, and ultimately in the whole show, for pretty much anybody he has any level of intimacy with. There was something about that felt deeply personal to me, and made me realize because I mentioned, I don't remember which breakdown, but that Hannibal, I think it was the betrayal in the first season, it reminded me of a lot of my exes, when he reveals himself to be a true sociopath.
Uh-huh.
But truth be told, there was one person who stood out while I was watching the third season, who shall remain nameless. But uh, but it just made me think about, like, in terms of like that level, like so everything about like Hannibal's reaching out afterwards, the fact that he gave himself up
Mm-hmm.
only after Will decided to shut him out, just so Will would always know
Always
how
have
to
a
reach him if
place.
he
Yeah.
ever wanted to. I've got my own version of that with somebody, and don't want it, and spent the whole season watching Will going, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. But Will is not me, and Will, it went in such a way that it was more about. It became about, even if it were personal for me, it's about like, well, okay, what do you want your life to be like? I feel like him abandoning his wife and his kid, if you can call it that, which I think I do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason he did was, it was an odd, within the framework of this story, they felt like an odd placebo to me. It felt like she was a stand-in for Hannibal and the kid was a stand-in for Abigail.
Mm-hmm.
And um and it just, when he looks to the kid to try and comfort him and try to connect with him, and the kid confronts him with the truth about him killing someone, and it's like, and just like, no, but we're not going to try to kill this guy who tried to kill you and your mom. And it's just like, you should have tried to kill him, or whatever he says there, that exchange they have. For him to be confronted like that by someone he's supposed to teach, he's supposed to be mentoring, he's supposed to be showing the ways of the world, and now he's starting to, now we know in retrospect, agree with him, and starting to wonder, like, am I really doing any good not
Yeah.
destroying this man? How much good have I really done these past almost 3 seasons now?
And is it worth it? Is it worth me going off this cliff and not seeing my wife again to stop this man? Yeah.
Well, because with the wife, there was the point where he went to go see her after, when she was like laying down in the
Mm-hmm.
hospital bed, and he tries to speak to her, and she's just kind of reeling from it. And I don't think that's irrational, but at the same time, like, she's just kind of, she's not even having a fight with him. She's almost having a fight with herself, going, I was the one who told you go. And
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you, but Jack Crawford wanted you to go, so I'm mad at him, really? And, just kind of working it out, finding ways not to really, truly, I feel, be honest with Will. I feel like it would have brimmed over, and at some point, there's some kind of confrontation that happens there. Or, even worse, they live their lives forever, and she just holds it, clenches it in her stomach, never releases it, and just silently resents Will for the rest of their lives. I don't know which is worse, but actually that's worse.
Yeah. But
Release
then they can go to therapy sessions with Bedelia and work it out. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because that'll help. That's healthy. But no, but I mean, and also the fact that like when he's inquired by, I think Alana. No, is it Alana or Hannibal? One of them asks Will early on, does she know? I think Hannibal asks, does she know about me? Or did you tell her about me? And he says, she knows enough or something like that. Yes. And right then, also in retrospect, I didn't feel it then. I feel it now. That moment for me tells me Will is a romantic, needs to share something pure with somebody, doesn't view this connection with his wife that way because she doesn't see all of him. And what she is starting to see that she denied or didn't know about or didn't want to look at before is starting to turn her off, or just to kind of make her ask questions. And Hannibal wants to embrace it, wants to, yes, exploit it, but also wants to acknowledge it and wants to tell him, yes, me too. And there's something about that kind of recognition that makes, I mean, it's homoerotic for sure in the finale, but that's not why I love what happened. I love it because Will made a choice that probably better, and it was all impulsive. I don't think he premeditated it, but probably better to satisfy this curiosity of his own for what it's like to kill someone, to really kill someone, not to do it in defense, but also to do it in defense, but not reason it out, not feel angst about it, not feel bad about it. Let yourself just go and do if you feel an impulse, go for it, and don't suffer guilt afterwards. In fact, do it with someone you can.
Right.
I mean,
quite literally.
So
and
sick.
Also, it's not a defensive attack. He literally guts him the same way he was gutted a season ago.
Sure.
It is very much an offense, not a defensive sort of.
Yeah, but
literally,
at the same time,
with the same cut across the gut, he could have turned to Hannibal and be like, "I learned it from watching you."
But the fact that he's not, I think it's just about intention and about the framework within he moves into it, because that kill is very, very different than the kill of Garrett Jacob. What's Abigail's last name? Or Garrett
Hobbs?
Garrett Jacob Hobbs. Totally different. Like you watch those scenes side by side, he's freeing something of himself at one point. In another, I think now we can look back and maybe see himself as muzzled, and something escapes. Something escapes, and it wasn't supposed to. So the romanticism of, and I don't mean romanticism is like, isn't it romantic in like a contemporary way? I mean like the traditional sense of romanticism is in broad epic, in the moonlight, the silhouette on the top of the mountain, kind of romantic.
Let us embrace on the hillside of this cliff overlooking the moon.
And not that it's about love, but that it's about,
and we're sweaty and covered in blood.
Yes, it's about grandeur. It's operatic levels of whatever. And the dialogue is still simple, but the emotions that are coursing out of them are operatic. And
that's the most I felt from an embrace on camera in a long time.
My arms were over my head the whole time, like I was on a roller coaster. I was just going, thank you. And I didn't close my eyes. I don't know why. I just did it now because I was just watching. I just want to, because I was like, are they gonna kiss? I don't care. Because they didn't. Then they didn't. I didn't care. They didn't. They were just like that.
I would love to have. I mean, I know the scene has to go on, but I could have stayed in that. Just stayed there for like a whole nother minute.
But then the shock of them both falling together.
And fuck, we get a new sushi song.
Right.
I just sat there with the credits rolling, going, "What the fuck is happening right now?" Like I'm
I
like,
know. And she wrote it with the composer of
right.
the score.
The second it ended, the episode ended after Jillian's scene. The first thing I looked up was like, okay, so this song was written for the show, right? And then who? Okay, so this I just got. Oh man,
Susie and the
like there's
Banshees,
an easy
yeah.
way to get it. No, fuck, that was great. That was such a great choice.
Oh God. And okay, let's backtrack a bit.
Yeah, I have all sorts of things that we've skipped over.
Yeah, right.
Because okay,
No, the thing is,
because well, go ahead.
no. It's just because the last thing we saw was the finale, and it's so big block letters. I mean, I was so excited and so satisfied. That is the best word in this world of finales that I've heard. I haven't watched Game of Thrones yet, and now that I know that most people hate the finale, I know that to expect that. Okay, it's probably not going to end in the greatest way. I know to expect it now. Same thing with Lost. Same thing with, some other shows. But my God, this finale fucking delivered for me like dominoes. And I just want, so I mean, it stands to reason that that would be, at least for me, I know the thing that I'd be most excited to discuss about the show.
Finale, I mostly really like the season, but because I really fucking like the shit out of season 2, and the finale, not just because it was the finale, but like the finale for a lot of specific reasons emotionally gave me all the highs. Like, I'm through the roof about fucking episode 13. That's where it's at for me. And especially when you, however much you want to read into misusing or using the word homoerotic for Jack, and not Jack, for Will and Hannibal, this whole series. And I would argue it's less having to do about sexuality or romanticism, more it is just about connection and understanding, and a bond. The last minute of this was the most satisfying thing that I've been craving for 3 seasons. And I can imagine some people have been craving it for years because they watched it when it aired, whereas you and I watched it over a fucking month.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, getting to the end of season 3 when it starts. But yeah.
Yes.
Let me just, we did this last time where we kind of did some bullet points, then we lingered a bit, then did some bullet points, then lingered.
Sure.
Here's some bullet points. I remember going into season 3, I read a little bit, and I told you about some of the things I knew about that. I think they do Red Dragon, but then maybe they don't. I don't know. I know we wanted to get to certain things, and then also I knew that Bryan Fuller said when it came to everyone lying in the house at the end of season 2, one of them was going to go. And we're thinking, you're not killing Will. I know we play kind of a little, we move things around, but you're not killing Jack. I think even having said that, Bryan Fuller, you're not killing Alana. I think you're tricking us and thinking one of the leads is dying. Abigail's going to be fucking dead. And then when she walks into episode 2, I was like,
God,
what the fucking fuck is happening here?
I know.
And I felt all the feelings because Will is giving me all the feelings.
God.
And just that satisfaction of like when they arrive in Europe together and just getting to see them like be a unit.
Yeah.
But there was something when I think he first gets questioned by Ronaldo Pazzi.
Yeah.
And he's on his way to her, but she looks off to him as if to be like, oh, there's this guy here to see or something. But like, it just becomes Ronaldo and Will. I'm like, where'd fucking Abigail go? I feel like she should. What the fuck did she?
Very Sixth Sense,
happened, I was like, God damn it, Bryan Fuller. Yeah, you did that thing. You did the thing where Billy can't be the killer because he was in jail that night. We have this, and then it turns out Billy, so she can't be dead. She's here. No, fuck you, you're right. Anyway, that was a fun little roller coaster to be on. But when he first sees her, and then we go to this 8-month jump, I had no so after the first episode, my first thought was, okay, all right. I only saw the movie Hannibal once. But being that I knew that there was a 7-season plan, I thought we were setting stuff up in Italy and having Ronaldo be there so that later, because we're going to go chronologically, right? The way the books and the movies went, Hannibal, the movie, would be season 6.
Yeah.
But Ronaldo's already been going after Il Monstro. So it didn't click for me right away that we were doing. I thought we were doing a precursor to Hannibal. And then somewhere around, God, like I don't know, maybe around episode 4, I really went, "Oh fuck, we're doing it. We're doing it now.
Yeah.
This is the most. We're gonna do this with the stories. Got it. Holy shit!" And that's what I'm like. Oh fuck! Are they gonna strap this fucker to a thing and push him out a window and his guts are gonna fall out? Because damn it! Fuck! All right. That was also the thing. I really grew to like that guy. I am not the world's biggest fan of Hannibal the movie, but I am quite a fan of Giancarlo Giannini, and he lingers in my mind when that movie comes up. I still feel bad when he dies, and I will love him in anything he's in. And so there's automatically a bias where I'm like, and this show's already. There's never. I didn't have conflict with a new Will. We've had other Wills. We've had other Jacks. We've had Lord knows we have other Hannibals.
Yeah.
For some reason with Ronaldo, I was like, I don't know.
Wow.
Giancarlo Giannini, come on, don't fuck with me here. I like this dude a lot. I liked him and his wife a lot.
Yeah.
I was just a little more conflicted just about not conflicted, but it was interesting that he played such an active role in contacting Verger and the bounty. But yeah, I was really happy with him ultimately.
Yeah, me too.
When you were talking about Bedelia and her participation and the little looks, there's that line about like eating the dessert from the Titanic, like being like their last dessert. I was like, that exchange and serving him that dessert was fucking delicious. This is little things. I enjoyed the first half in Will's journey, kind of dipping his toe into like Hannibal Rising territory, as far as his sister and all that. It was without doing a whole like, we're gonna do a 4 or 5 episode flashback to like when but just giving it to us in that. I forget her name.
Chio?
There we go. The second he comes out on the back of that train, before any dialogue, I'm like, dude, she's gonna push off the fucking train. Like, no dialogue's even happened. I wouldn't have even gone out there. But that's one of your cases that you as the viewer know the vibe of the show, and Will as a character doesn't know the vibe of the show he's in and doesn't get all her side glances. But I'm like, man, you're fucked. I adore that when Will is talking to Hannibal, like in his headspace, they're still in the office with the chairs. Just something about that. I even as the show is moving away from that entirely, we still get to use that set. But more importantly, I just like that's where Will's headspace is.
And in the church.
Oh, the church too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which shocked me. But it got to a point where I think at the top of the last episode, I started just writing down a theory, but I don't want to get to that just yet.
Here's what I'd like to get to.
Yes.
Joe Anderson, who my introduction to him was Across the Universe. And I don't remember if I think it came out after, but I remember watching The Ruins. Again, this show loves to, I mean, casting directors, I don't think they're going like, well, let's pull good people from horror movies. But between Catherine Isabel, we've got 2 actors from The Ruins.
Yeah.
God. I was so happy to see him. And here's a guy who's playing with the voice, but it's working for me. And also, just side note before you go off on your thing, before you have, Lord knows you have one, but I had a real problem with the degree of his hair and the degree of his fur coats. I thought he stepped out of episode of Gotham. Whoever the hair and makeup team, just the right amount for the hair. It wasn't too much. They still
Uh-huh.
gave us the Mason Verger that we knew.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, especially as an actor, you still have your voice. But when you're in
Yes.
this much makeup, even as scarred, you're losing some of your tools. So this
Yeah.
is your tool, and these are your tools. And
Mm-hmm.
he was giving me the right level of Mason Verger-ness, but within a with but
Uh-huh.
I've never we've never talked about this, but I'm a big fan of that dude. He shows up and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, fuck yeah, Control, fuck yeah. Not the biggest fan of Across the Universe, but fuck yeah, him in it was great. He was
Mm-hmm.
my if they ever made a Nirvana movie, he's always been my dream Kurt Cobain.
Oh my God, that would be great.
Dream Kurt Cobain.
Oh wow. Okay, good call.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a rant last time, and I did feel myself like you know when you can feel a fit pitching like inside you, like you're like, oh no, because I started to hear a voice. I didn't know what quite yet. I just heard like, and I saw the thing, and I was like, no, and I don't. That's not my. And I looked it up. I don't ever do it, but I paused because I don't want to miss anything. And I just looked it up because I wanted to see who I'm looking at, and lo and behold, Joe Anderson is Mason Verger, and and I was just kind of like, oh, all right, well, let's. That's some. I want to do some research on that later. But I watched it, and I watched him, and the funny thing was, the voice in particular is so singularly, it's distinct, and I feel like it has to be. That said, this voice, where I did my impression of Bruce McCulloch from Kids in the Hall Brain Candy for Michael Pitt, I felt like Joe Anderson was giving full on Jim Carrey as the Grinch who stole Christmas, just sitting there talking like that, and I was like, oh my God, I mean, even more, like even broader. But the thing is, it reminded me of a quote that I think of from time to time about, like, when I'm thinking about when you can compare performances between actors who jump the shark, as it were, and actors who just enough, and what the difference is. And I remember Alan coming in an interview that he did for Titus Andronicus, Julie Taymor's movie. He had to play Saturninus, and he had to throw a lot of fits and just be really huge and really theatrical and be evil, but get laughs and everything like that. So he ended up just kind of like embracing it. But and luckily he said he didn't feel inhibited by Julie Taymor. But this is the thing that it made me think of, was he said, I think you can be as big as you like as long as you mean it.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Anderson fucking meant it. He, first of all, like, relished his evil, his own. You could feel it like dripping off of him.
Oh yeah, he's very well aware of the choices as a character that he is making towards other people.
Yes, and really made a decision that how much he delights in torturing other people and tormenting them, and even just like playing with them, making them uncomfortable. Like his first few exchanges with Alana, I think the first two, I think he mentions something about how she tastes, and alluding to her, her interactions with Hannibal, to the point where when he said it the second time, I was just like, bitch, didn't you already say that? You're not. Oh my God, you're gross.
there is a very aware cruelty and amusement, and it in his eyes, but also sometimes in the way he pulls his mouth. But also there's a lot of I keep coming back to his eyes for this. Beyond just the very aware cruelty, there is such a focus when it comes to like the menace within his vengeance.
Also, sorry.
It's 100% dialed in, and it's great.
Yeah, but also, I mean, one thing I kind of harped on about last season was spontaneity, and one thing that I loved about Joe, is while he's swinging for the fences and I think nailing it, like he's hitting home run after home run as far as I'm concerned. Another thing is the eyes I noticed as well. But one thing that I really noticed them were responding, listening, and not thinking about what my eyes should do or anything like that. He's giving the same attention to the other actors in the room as every other actor has given to every other character. Granted, different characters listen in different ways or look for different things from different people, but he made a decision about what this person, how this person sees this person, how he sees this person, and then just lets it go and then just listens. And I loved watching him. I mean, it was so, again, it's a subtlety. It's not something you can choreograph, but just like watching his eyes narrow sometimes, or just watching them go wider sometimes when he would be kind of like, oh, you know, I mean, it was just, also, I want to make a technical comment. The first shots we saw of the facial prosthetic on him, I was like, oh no. Oh, I mean, it's so visibly, and I thought this was a problem initially. I was like, oh, it's so obviously not his skin tone. Like it looks like a prosthetic, like a prosthetic they painted on him and everything. Oh, that's a shame. And then they showed the actual procedure where he actually had somebody else's skin grafted on his face. I'm like, oh, idiot. It's not his skin. It's not going to match his face perfectly. That would be disingenuous. So good for you, TV show. So every time I saw it, what I loved was it was consistent. They never fixed it. Every time you saw him, no matter what lighting he was under, the face always looked paler than his actual skin tone. I appreciated the fuck out of that. Because also there's not a lot of blood circulation going on there.
They showed it being pulled off of, was it, at first I thought it was his leg or his back. I
don't remember.
Maybe I'm dumb, but I remember seeing it being pulled from something. And I just thought it was his own like leg skin being applied or his own back skin. But it could be someone else's.
I don't remember. I feel
all
okay.
I know is, as far as giving me something different, because the movie gave us like the absence of that. The movie gave us, and the fact that they're like, well, one, that sounds really ambitious. First of all, this show rises to ambitions greatly, both in visual effects and photography and acting and writing. So, but the choice to be like, no, let's not try to create the absence of a nose and the absence of things. Let's give him the graft so that we can let the actor maybe do his thing more and not rely on, not like it's a gimmick, but we get to work with this. And I thought that was a really, really smart choice.
Yeah, and just to kind of close the door on it, like Joe Anderson, great, like thumbs up. He's now joined the league. I started wondering also after one of the episodes, I was really enjoying his performance because that's another thing, he was really enjoying it. I never got the sense that the previous actor was enjoying his performance. I feel like he was just thinking his way through a scene and might have left as unfulfilled as he moved into it. Whereas this actor, I was just kind of like, I think I mentioned somebody in season 2, like having that Disney villain level, that classic Disney villain level of just like completely like being consumed by your own sense of evil, and you know, like to the point where it's a point of pride to you. It's like, you know who you are in this universe. In fact, you own it, and you wear it proudly, and it's gonna be probably like your moniker, like when you see yourself standing atop a hill of corpses of all your enemies, and you're going to know you're the villain who succeeded over all these enemies, but you're going to be a proud villain. So I appreciated that. But he joined the league of, I noticed there's a very short list of replacements in television history that I actually like. I could only think of 3. And just very quickly, one of them is Carol from Friends, Ross's ex-wife, because it was somebody different in, I think, the pilot. And then in the rest of the show, it was Jane Sibbett, who I love and did a great job. The other one was Meg from Family Guy. What's her name? That 70s show.
Mila Kunis?
Mila Kunis, thank you. Yeah, I remember, like, nothing against Lacey Chabert, but something magical happened when I got to finally see Mila Kunis' voice coming out of Megan going like, that's it, I'm going to go upstairs, I'm going to eat a bunch of peanuts. I'm allergic to peanuts. You don't know anything about me, and then runs out of the. That was the best. And then the last one I could think of. The last one I could think of was oh shit, and I'm just blanking on names right now. But the one who played Lois Lane on the old George Reeves Superman
I don't know.
show. Yeah, Noelle Neal. Hey, I remembered.
Wow.
Because the original one, she was fine, she was good, but then Noelle Neal came in and she used to do the old serials, like when, girls were, when she was getting tied to the train tracks and Superman had to come in and save her. So I'm like, Noelle Neal's back. And anyway, so those were the only ones that I could think of. So now Joe Anderson's Mason Berger has joined the league of welcome replacements for me.
Yeah.
So let's take that in, put that in your pipe and smoke it. I've also, do you have something else you want to discuss?
Well, from that episode, at least the way I'm going down through my notes. But as far as Joe Anderson as Mason goes, no, just sublime, and glad we got to see him and the eel. Like it was just satisfying. Again, it was weird for me to. I thought, especially when we talked last time, if we see him fucking again next season, especially that actor, my theory was that they were going to give us the distance of time. Yeah. They were going to give us Manhunter, Silence of the Lambs, and then it was going to be a case of, I've been planning this for a while. This is your path coming back to bite you in the ass. Now that you've escaped and you're in the world again, this demon from your past comes to get you. I did not expect this to happen the very next season. Not complaining, but completely unexpected.
Yeah.
But I will say I found a considerable amount of satisfaction, not necessarily seeing Alana and Margot together, which I get it, the reasons why, but the first few scenes of them when they're with Mason, and it was like the second scene where they like exchange a look, or she looks at her, and I'm like, what was that look about? And then after they're doing this kaleidoscope of sex, and we find out their true intent. Like both of them very clearly are out to get him. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Me too.
Oh, thank God.
Because up until that point, you're like, why are you both here?
Like, what does Mason, how much does he still have over Margot?
Yeah.
That she is willing to be here, but she's still playing that part.
Yeah.
So well. But just the fact that, and even though Margot's coming, even though Alana's coming in with just the basic anti-Hannibal vengeance thing, I'm like, okay. But then when you find out that they're in on this together, and they clicked more for me. I was so happy with everything with them going forward once I knew what their agenda was. Also, side note, I am so fucking here for Alana in power suits.
Yes.
I think I've said something about her each season when it comes to the wardrobe department and the choices that the costume supervisors that are making for her. But every look for her that each season has somebody's clearly thinking all the right things and making smarter choices. But if there was 4 more seasons and every season was her in fucking power suits and shit, I'd be so goddamn happy. Especially in the second half, the Red Dragon half.
With her shorter hair.
I'm so fucking here for all of it.
They both
she's been through. I mean, when you look at where she was in season 1 to where she is in season 3, the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for that. That growth, but her focus, her demeanor, almost her iciness and her distrust and her confidence, but also knowing where it all came from. In fact, one of the little things that like I didn't feel a lot of eddies this season. I didn't do a lot of but I did have one. Really big. Well, I had more than one. Obviously, the fucking hug at the end was probably the big one. But I had a semi if you will.
Oh, okay.
No, not literally. I'm saying metaphorically.
No, I know.
The hug at the end was like strong like bull, and then like this one's more like a,
A Hollywood loaf, yes. Go
no,
on.
but it was so sad when Alana goes back to the house and she finds Jack there. Not Jack. She finds Will there.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to pause it and I had to write it down. He's like, I came here to be alone. And he goes, if you don't mind. He asked her to leave by just going, if you don't mind. And I just thought, like, fuck, how much of things changed. Like,
Yeah.
compared to how you both felt about each other. Like,
Yeah.
that reading, that delivery, that the lack of manners and just his own selfish shit in that moment. That one got to me. But yeah, no, yay for her pantsuits.
Well, because one thing I loved about Alana and about I'll talk about Alana first because I don't want they're not entirely a unit. But one thing that I loved about Alana was, yes, there was an icier composure about her, particularly the Red Dragon sequence. But I mean, just another thing I loved about the first half was just like seeing everybody in the like kind of watching them from another perspective in that final sequence, in that final episode of season 2, and then getting to see what happened afterwards and seeing them brought back. I just felt my heart get lighter. I was just kind of like, you mean we're getting them all back? I was so happy because I honestly, it makes it, I mean, I won't say more interesting, but it just gives you more people to watch. So it's interesting in that way, as opposed to just taking a handful of characters who have lost a bunch of people and trying to navigate them through a season. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's impossible, but I was glad that we were getting as much interaction with people who have been through so much with each other. I mean, they feel like veterans of war at this point. And they speak to each other like they are too. Like there's that, they've really earned that procedural show cadence, that over the shoulder, like barbed wit exchange that they occasionally do. Even to the point where they're pointing out each other's, it doesn't even have to be barbed wit. It can just be pointedly communicating with each other. The way Chilton could speak to Alana at the end of the season when he's inside his own like kind of incubator thing, his own chamber. And he's laying there and she's looking at him. And he gets to say exactly what he wants to her and Will. But there's something about watching her that I could stomach, because I felt like even though she felt guilt, she was going to be okay. Will, his exchange with Chilton, I could not watch. I was literally, I mean, here we got a whole season. We got some, very graphic things happening here and there. And I did wince a few times, but that's not the strongest thing I carried away from the season. But one of the strongest things that I felt myself really averting my eyes was just Will having to look into Chilton's eyes and into that face and those lipless gums.
That's the kind of shit that I was here for when you're giving me the story that has been told in print and in multiple movies, to give us something new.
Yeah.
And also not just something that is new, but something to really chew on, because, it wouldn't have had the same effect if you'd done it with Freddie.
Yeah.
And then also, and I can't help but wonder, by the way, if that choice is also like, because I mean, in a certain sense, fair is fair as far as doing this to a character, be it male or female. But on the other sense, do we really need to like do this to a female character? Can we maybe like switch it to him instead? Like, I don't know.
It's like, we got enough men. We could.
Can we fuck him up instead? Yeah.
Right.
No, but to have it happen to Chilton and have him survive, so we even have that scene.
I know.
Because if you'd stuck just to the text, we would be bereft of that performance.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's true about a lot of these situations.
Well, I mean, we can get to it a little bit later, but the whole when we get Tara, was it Renee? What's Tara's name?
Reba.
Reba. Fuck. Because they gave us.
I understand. Yeah.
We have Will going to the house, and then the pets are out, and he's watching, and the photography development thing, and carving into the tree, like so much shit, and then attacking his wife. So when we get Reba into the house, I'm like, okay, no, oh wait, what?
Right.
What the fuck? Okay, so but that's a bigger degree of what we got with Chilton in that scene, and having
God
Will have to look him in the fucking face
and
answer to that. Because again, when you've got Freddie in the photo and putting the hand on the shoulders, the payoff is they're dead. But when you do it to Chilton and you have him survive, like the consequence of being in that photo with him is such a grander consequence. Yeah.
And it's an effective parallel again with a question mark over Will's head about it. They used the word betrayal, and it brought me back to the first season about how the biggest betrayal I felt was Hannibal against Will, certainly. And here Will is still playing with this question of, well, how much am I conscious of what I'm doing? How much am I letting this happen? How much do I know this is a probable, not just possible, but a probable outcome? And why did I just let it happen? Was I just curious? Am I that much like Hannibal? Was I always, or did he make me this way? Or is it just easier to blame? I mean, it just brings out flood of questions that I've been asking, and he's been asking increasingly throughout this whole season. But even the exchanges about that, like his sessions with Bedelia and the kind of confrontations, there was something that she said. I have so many, but yeah.
No, I think my favorite, you were talking about this before about the two of them and almost like the competition. The line that got me is like, well, first of all, I love that he finally just blatantly asked, like, is Hannibal in love with me? And they either refer to like the bride or the wife. And she goes, if only I was the last. Like the fact that she considers him to be the last of his wives, or his last, you know, just the fact that she's even aware that she can throw that at him.
But even the fact that she uses, I forget exactly at which session it is, even if it's because there's so many now, but there's one session where they're discussing her relevance in his life, or just her role, and he says something to the effect like, you got, I like something like, I got to be up close to the veil, but you got to actually be behind it.
Yeah.
And she agrees with him. And she knows he envies her for it, yet we've seen her and how uncomfortable she was behind that veil, to the point where she threatened to leave again, or didn't even threaten to leave, but she basically helped to manufacture a situation where Hannibal would have to leave her, would not kill her, and hopefully would be apprehended and would no longer be able to reach her. That said, that leads me to something that was planted in the first episode of season 3, just the fact that we find out what she was eating. I don't forget the exact list, but it's what ancient Romans fed animals to improve their flavor. And that's all he's ordering for her to eat. So he's seasoning the meat, as it were. So she knows this inevitable day is coming. And shall we discuss this now? We've been talking a long time. The true last minute of the series.
Oh yeah.
When which I was already over the moon. This just had me watching it as I fell from it, going, it's not getting any smaller.
Give me your thoughts on this, because I didn't think I had a question. Now I feel like I have a question.
Okay, because first I was confused because I didn't quite understand what was sitting on the table. We had so much imagery of the red dragon this whole time that when I saw something shaped the way the leg was shaped and even kind of curving the way it was, I saw the red dragon's tail and I was very confused. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? And then I saw, before they even panned down, I was like, I saw them switch the shot and I was like, I saw them start to pan down. I didn't even see the reveal yet, but I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
That's a leg. That's a leg.
See, I saw that it was a leg, but I thought, well, whose leg is it? And then the second, because, you start to learn cinematic language where, so if I was 10 years old, the shot wouldn't tell me. But the second the camera goes like this, I'm like, oh, it's her leg. We're going to get a reveal.
Yes. But even just the fact that we got the shot we did, I was like,
here's my question.
Nobody's going to come up behind her, but what's your question?
My question is, let me put it this way. My first impression when I saw the shot is based on her last conversation with Will. This is very close to the timeline of the end, like them jumping off the cliff. So I had my impression was that this is her welcome home dinner. Like she's expecting Hannibal any moment, or Hannibal and Will, but this is preparation. And I'm like, oh, you poor girl, you might be having dinner alone tonight. And then I started to wonder, or is this supposed to be a time jump? And like any second now, Hannibal's going to walk into frame and join her for dinner.
I didn't feel that way at all.
I didn't feel like it was a time jump. I felt like
I didn't even feel like this is the first time I'm actually thinking, oh, I guess it could have been somewhat planned. There was something about the look in her face. She looked more crazy than I've seen Bedelia look this whole series. There was this odd...
Yeah.
Gillian Anderson knows how to do it and still make it real, though, but just like kind of like these wide eyes and this grin.
Well, no, this is 100% she did this, and she cooked it.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but what I got from it was the fact that because of her last exchange with Will, everything about that tells her, oh, he's out. That means he's going to be coming for me. That means he's going to want to eat me. I don't want to die because I don't want the game to be over.
Right.
So how can I satisfy him for a bit? Everything about the unhealthiest aspects of Hannibal's interactions, which I feel are kind of like the cornerstone of his and Bedelia's relationship. All the codependency, all of the manipulation, all of the status that they get to acquire just by being in each other's company. Like there's something personal. There's definitely a connection there. But there's also this thing that reminded me of Malkovich and Glenn Close's characters in Dangerous Liaisons, or Malkovich and Barbara Hershey's characters in Portrait of a Lady, the Nicole Kidman, Jane Campion movie. People watch it. It's good. It's on Shout Factory Blu-ray. But just these people who have elevated themselves to a point, even arguably Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, Demon Barber of Fleet Street, where they've gotten to a point where they've elevated themselves so much over the regular people, the mortals, that we're just playthings for them. And the way they find their amusement is by, feeding that curiosity, that detachment, because the more detached, the more they can distance themselves from us, the more they can feel that they're in power and that they're the only worthy party, as it were. I feel like, so because I see all of that in Bedelia, and because I know she wants to keep it going, and because I'm so convinced, like Hannibal, more than any other season, this season, I got the strongest sense because it's Chio, because of Alana, because of Will, because of Bedelia, because of Abigail, because there's others. I'm sure there's others. The list of people he's got in his arsenal of people he's had his thrall over, his influence just kind of eclipsing over their good senses, their better senses or whatever. because it's just more interesting or more fun or more compelling or more fulfilling being in his gaze and in his company. I got the sense of him as the toxic, like, influencer, the energy vampire, just the person who will never love in a healthy way, but who can experience passion and who lusts for life and is always looking for a partner whom he recognizes a kinship in, and also loves pitting them against each other. So, sorry, long road to what I thought that symbolized was her really upping the ante. Like,
absolutely.
look how impressed he's going to be.
Yeah.
I prepared my own leg for him. I'm going to watch him eat it. She probably already knows about
And
Gideon.
I get all that right there.
Yeah. But I also felt like the tragedy of it was because I didn't know about the season 4 thing. I didn't know about the 7-season plan. I really thought this was the end. And if it is, I'll just go on believing this. If Hannibal is dead, I think Bedelia probably kills herself really, really soon. Oh, because another thing that they reveal is her taking the large fork and hiding it, because it's all a game. Because if Hannibal tries anything, she's going to be prepared. She's going to have this fork, and she won't kill him, but she'll just stop him. She knows where to poke to, and it's going to be, and she's just in glee, a horrible, baited glee about what's to come, what the next step is going to be in this wholly toxic union with this man, and a man who's never coming. Because he, little does she know, I didn't think she knew, little does she know, he died in the arms of the closest he's ever, in the arms of the man who is the closest he's ever come to a real union, a real mirror, and a real, you mentioned like in the absence, not in the absence, but like in outside of like any kind of like homoeroticism you can read into it about connectivity. For me, it's not even about connection. It's about, I mean, more specifically than connection, recognizing someone and being recognized by them wholly, purely, without any kind of, and with so much so that it feels like there are no layers between the two of you. You just kind of
you're just finding an understanding.
Yeah, and because you both see each other that purely, there is an odd merging that goes on, and I don't call that healthy. But if it's what you're choosing, dying right after it is probably the best course of action.
Because I completely agree with you that as far as her presentation of look what I've done, and like I know that he's out, but besides the shock of her presentation and her choice and her waiting, the extra tinge that I got was just like, oh, it's almost like a girl being stood up on prom night. Like, aside from the shock, my very last thought was one of sadness, even though I don't necessarily like her, but I was like, oh.
It made me think, both of them actually made me think about The Little Mermaid, which, and I mean the original Hans Christian Andersen one.
The one where she turns to sea foam at the end?
Yeah, which actually, depending on the version you read, sometimes she turns into sea foam and it's just dead. And sometimes she actually turns into a spirit of the sea and, you know, looks over him and looks over, you know, other sailors, and just, she's a benevolent spirit. So she becomes something else more beautiful.
It's not the sweetest ending when it comes to the love story. Yeah.
It's not a happy ending.
No.
It's, you know, but it made me think about the moral when the first time I got out of my own little, you know, codependency bubble. And I looked at it, I saw it as a story of sacrifice, and how basically, like, the moral is when you sacrifice everything for someone, you sacrifice everything. And it takes so much longer to get it back, even if we're just talking identity, components of your own identity.
And Bedelia can't even do that. She can't grow her leg back.
I think and it's about so much more than a leg, because the leg missing isn't the most horrific thing about that scene. It's the expression in her eyes for me. The fact that she's beaming.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be so pleased, and I'm ready for him.
And she put on a really pretty dress, and the table is set beautifully. Like, so much effort went in for her to be proud of.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's so much scarier than watching her run.
Even more so than any other season, this one, to me, really hit me over the face more about people. There's way more ambiguity, or at least having to read under the surface of what's being said. Whereas in this season, it feels pretty upfront by the time you get to Jack saying, like, Will saying, "I'm done with you." And me seeing as much as Hannibal will allow you to see his like almost like an emotional defeat, so that it's no surprise to me when he turns himself in. Like, I absolutely get it. I get that from Cordelia. I certainly, one of the things I really like this season is the second half, the Red Dragon half. It's the confidence that Will has in almost every scene he's in, as far as even when he's sitting in therapy scenes with Bedelia. Like, even compared to where he's still trying to figure things out about Hannibal and himself, whereas I feel like he's completely in control of him as a being when he's with Bedelia, when he is investigating things, when he's interviewing, talking to Hannibal. I remember going, like, I don't recall ever seeing this confidence from Will. So much so that even, going into the Red Dragon story, coming out of a codependent thing where his ex has left him in a place where he can find him, I never really believe he's ever going in there with any emotional high hopes. He is going there to try to help somebody. He's going in there for Jack. Obviously, there's going to be conflicts. Not so much about how deep am I going to go with empathy, but this show begins to posit how deep am I going to go into allowing him back in, or allowing myself to allow him. I feel like it really only is in like the last 2 episodes where we really start, like, that embrace at the end is not something that was brewing when he takes this case.
No.
I think it's something that brews as the story goes on. But what I like that a lot of people have, things are more cemented as far as who they are in this season. I just appreciate that. Gives me a little more sense of growth. Not 100% cemented, but more cemented. But I'm digging Will's confidence a lot. I just dig it.
I do think I was as convinced, though, as Will was when he makes the decision to go in and I guess destroy Hannibal, that he wanted that. But
right, in the last 2 episodes, things.
But even before then, like, because before then is when he asks about the, like, is he in love with me question, isn't it? Yeah. Doesn't he ask that before the last couple episodes? But so, I mean, there's something about, again, like the sessions with Bedelia, and even the going to see him, like, and then the going to see him again. Like, he walked out, he did what Hannibal referred to as the mic drop after that first interaction, which would have been so cool if that had all.
That's what all it was. If that had been
it, it would have been, because this is the thing. This is where Will was more mysterious to me than Hannibal. Hannibal, I feel like, was a complete open book. Like, if people don't know what Hannibal's going to do at this point, I feel like they're not paying attention. Whereas with Will, he's the one who I can't predict. Like, I couldn't, when he went back again, and even the way he said please when he asked him to help, for him to go after the Red Dragon and everything, I was just kind of like, Will, you're slipping. You quit, and now you're like, well, like one sip isn't gonna, you know.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I got this under control, and I feel like I didn't know how it was going to end. Again, I didn't know if it was going to end like Red Dragon. I didn't know if, because this is a different Will and a different Hannibal with a different history. He's not longer
different history and a different relationship.
Yeah.
In general.
He's no longer just his therapist and his aide. Like, there is a full on, I wouldn't even call it love story so much as a passion story. Like, that's what I got the most when they were just gripping each other. I was just like, I was in favor of it because I'm just like, I mean, I'm not one to get in the way of people going after what they want, and they both wanted that. So whatever it is, go for it. I don't need to define it. I don't need you to define it. You guys, I don't even know if it can be defined. Like, definitions, I feel, are something that, yes, we can do for ourselves and each other, but they're also something we do for, like, outsiders, just so people know how to label us when we walk down the street together, you know? So, and that's not what they are. They're not a hold the hands in the grocery store, go shopping kind of family. They never would have been. They would have been on the lam with a daughter the whole time. And
first of all, the beginning of this season, we got, I just love that we got to flash back to season 1 and when she doesn't get killed. And I love that we got to have Abigail again, to have scenes with Hannibal, to see her with Hannibal. I also love that we got Eddie Izzard back for another episode.
Gideon,
I love that we got Gideon flashbacks, some relevant Gideon flashbacks. But even though we're moving past these characters to a certain degree, we still get, first of all, they still get paid. They still get to show up and work, so that's great. But no, I love that Abigail was still around. I loved her scenes with Hannibal.
Yeah.
In a weird way, it made me sad, though, to see, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Not her loss, but just that's how far she is in with Hannibal now.
She's another one who's
for someone so young to be this in with him.
But also, she was set up for a life like, I mean, and this feels like I'm like telling her future, which I'm not doing. But it feels like, given her upbringing, Hannibal didn't have to work that hard.
He did not.
No, all he had to do, it's like what he did with Will. All he had to do was appeal to, and I think, again, it started with a curiosity. It started with the fact that, like, okay, this person has done A, B, and C. Like, whether it's Will, okay, this person empathizes with numerous serial killers and could visit a site in the aftermath and just kind of, like, put together exactly what this person was thinking and why they did it and what their design is. And then same thing with Abigail. Okay, so we've got a girl who was baiting people for her father, but she could have turned him in at any time. She was old enough. I also don't believe she was just a victim in this. Well, I'm just going to push, or, you know, I'm just going to poke at this and just see. And if I agitate enough to the point where I get an honest answer about whether she enjoyed it or not, like, even if I just insinuate that she did enjoy it, her reaction is going to be hers. I didn't do anything. All I did was just suggest something. And if she enjoyed it, that's on her. So if you can't, someone who derives absolutely no pleasure from killing, I don't know if you can recruit them. Whereas somebody who, even if they didn't derive pleasure from it, if they didn't experience any guilt afterward, I don't know, you know, how you make them feel guilt for it to prevent them from doing it. I think society tries, and Hannibal's in the other direction, just kind of like, no, this is who you are. And I feel like it's just an excuse, but I mean, you know, it's just like, this is who you are. Just be like me. Just, you know, learn how to do it. Learn how to be this way. You're going to do it. But, you know, I'm also a king manipulator. And if I need you to die, I'll convince you that it's for the best, that you served your purpose, and that, you know, your life is going to go on after this, but you can die knowing you truly lived, you know. But because he did the same thing with, I love Tao Okamoto as Chiyo. Small role, didn't really, not a lot of dialogue, but I really like her. in roles like that. She's always a presence that I notice. Like I remember her from the Wolverine, certainly from Batman v Superman as Mercy, and apparently she's on Westworld also, which I haven't started watching either. But just watching Chio, and her at her post, you know, the way we meet her, living in a world of the past, and then kind of becoming Hannibal's sniper. You know, like literally always, and I don't even, I mean, nothing really happens to her. Like she shoots the people who are going after him as he carries Will out towards the end. And then I think she just disappears, doesn't she? So she'll be back. If there is more, wherever she is, she's doing her thing and probably living a quiet life. But I'm worried about her because I felt like she was another one who was convinced, like, your life should be consumed by this issue of the past. I can no longer stay, but you can stay and you can guard this man. And if you won't kill him, well, then you can just watch him until he dies. How about that? I mean,
what a life.
What a life. And now that he's been killed, now that you've basically kind of killed him against your will, now you're basically going to go off and live a life in service of Hannibal because you have your own reasons. And I trust that there are reasons. One, I loved hearing in the Paley Center interview. She wasn't there, but I'm blanking on names now. It's getting late. Sorry, Bryan Fuller. Bryan Fuller was talking about getting her cast because originally it was another role in the books. It was an older woman, but there were things they wanted to do with the character that wouldn't have worked for a woman like that age. So they needed somebody young. And they're like, oh, there's Chio. Let's use Chio instead. Found out she was that Tal was interested, and they're like, oh, we'll get her. Didn't really talk to her, but he was a fan, and then got an email from her after she was cast, but before they did any work, where she just basically said, I've already observed a woman who I think is perfect for this, so I'm going to use that, and I've been thinking about this, and I was thinking it isn't right for it to be this way. What if it's like this? And I want to know what you think, and the day we can discuss this the day of, but I just wanted to bounce these ideas off you. And he just got a full email with all these ideas coming out of her, and I feel like that's a performance I believe would be comprised of that much, because everything that she says seems to come from somewhere. Every bit of that, every brick of that history, I feel like she built up for herself, at least what she needed. And so I just wanted to give her a shout out. I didn't feel like we talked about her enough.
No, she deserves some props.
And just like lines, just like, because we're just going down, the roster. I don't even know how long we've been talking at this point. But Will, just a line he said in episode 3, this was another thing where I was just kind of like, God damn it, Will! I've never known myself as well as I know myself when I'm with him. Fuck, Will! Come back! Like, now that I know where it ends, I'm just kind of like, okay, I would never begrudge you that. Like, that looks fulfilling as fuck, but God damn it! Because also, it's fulfilling because there's no aftermath, because you would just be disappointed after that. He would betray you again. I just wrote, own it, Will, your Hannibalness. But I didn't know he was going to own it quite that way. A bunch of quotes from Will. He was my friend, and I wanted to run away with him. And I'm like, damn it, Will, that's episode 4. See, each episode goes by, there's at least a line per episode that comes out. I love that Alana, this is the difference between the two of them. The first time they meet afterwards, she says friendship with Hannibal is blackmail elevated to the level of love.
Yeah.
Oh, great. She gets it. Now I'm Alana. I just have to... I guess I just have to find my Margot now. But...
Can I just interrupt your quotes for a second to say how nice it is after season 2, where we feel like Alana was... sidelined is a somewhat shitty word for it, but to have her sort of have more ownership of herself and to be driving so much of her own character, I thought that was really great for this season.
And feel like a nice, enough of a return to the Alana I loved in season 1, but not such a departure from the Alana that we got in season 2, because this is an Alana who breaks the rules and
Right.
who feels justified in it.
And part of
Yeah.
the reason why she's sidelined is also because, in a sense, she is lost in Hannibal. But now that
Mm-hmm.
she is free of him, she's also, again, she's allowed to break the rules and all that because she has learned from being lost in Hannibal to a certain
Right.
Anyway, more
Also,
lines.
well, no, actually, beyond lines, because interestingly enough, I didn't say this yet. This season, I took less notes than I have for any of the other seasons because I literally was just kind of sitting there going, just letting it wash over me. But I wanted to outline at the end of episode 4 Bella's curiosity
I was about to
about
bring up
her own
Bella
death
and all that.
as a beautiful thing.
What?
My God, just we lost her. I'm like, oh God, I hate it, but I don't. But I mean, it's hard when movies, TV shows, plays, whatever, songs capture what loss really feels like. Kind of like, I don't know if it's a tone in the room, or if it's just kind of like a decibel level people speak at, or if it's just an air, like an energy that just kind of exists in between people who are feeling the loss. But I think that's another reason I didn't take a whole bunch of notes, is because like I can't articulate half of what I witnessed, and just watching her hold the dress in front, in front of Jack, and then seeing Alana is the one holding the dress in front of Jack, and I'm going, oh my God, you're I know you're not quite here. And I love you for it. And just ow. That's all I have to say is
Just ow. Well, I feel like every time we sit down to record one of these about Hannibal, I find something to rave about Jack and Bella. And
yes.
even though the show is called Hannibal, and it is
Yeah.
unquestionably about Will and Hannibal,
Mm-hmm.
there's always something where usually one of, if not the high point, one of the high points is a Jack and Bella scene.
Yeah.
And if you told me before I watched this that, like, when you look at Lawrence Fishburne's body of work, I never would have believed you if you'd said some of his best work is going to be in Hannibal. No offense to Hannibal, I just would imagine, that's where he's already
Like
given
as
us
Jack Crawford?
He's already Jack Crawford, FBI guy, and like on network TV but we've already had so much. But I mean, once again, masterclass. He's just, we get that little shot of like the medicine, and then he's just with her, and he has like this. It's like it's not quite a sigh or a breath, and it's not 100% a whimper, but it is definitely like a that like he fucking it's. And I say this every time. You want to take a class on how to act without having any dialogue whatsoever, but communicate everything. Watch his fucking half sigh, half whimper, and then it just has like it's only like 10 seconds of this scene or whatever, but it's just his fucking eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You can put it in black and white and put some scratches on it, and it's silent film acting, and I'm getting everything from his eyes.
Yeah.
He is great. And then one little thing in that episode at the end of that episode is when they're at the church and he gets like the note. He gets like a note from Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it starts as like, it's beautiful church organ music, almost like wedding bells.
Mm-hmm.
And it transitions into like organ music of menace. It's one of my favorite choices or not menace, but it's like danger organs. This is what I wrote down as my notes, danger organs. But yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Within one scene, transition from those two things within the same breath. It was great. The music on this show, I mean, they really played with some bold flavors last season, but I love me the danger organs at the end of episode 4.
Another thing I love, this is also something, we discussed it with Bedelia and Will plenty. Chio and Bedelia have that exchange back in Italy that I love, where again you feel two people kind of measuring each other up and discussing, you have a history with this man, I as well have a history with this man. I don't quite know how there's a kinship I feel with you because we both know him and he doesn't let in many people, but because not many people are capable of kind of meeting him on that level. So I'm intrigued by you because maybe we can speak on that frequency, but at the same time you're a threat. So I love that, but I also wrote just Will whispering two things to Bedelia, just I don't believe you. And I was like, yes, the vengeance part of me, like my little gay boy heart that like is just kind of like, yeah, it's right, bitch. I mean,
but again, that still comes back to that level of confidence that I'm loving in season 3 version of Will.
Because there's that other one about like before you and after you. I'm just like, oh, but and then I wrote beginning of episode 7 when Chio saves Jack, and then we've got Chio versus Mason, Margot, and Alana. After that exchange, I just wrote, I think I just had an orgasm. This was prior to Mason getting eaten by that eel, but just watching the calculation of it all these people conspiring against each other, or are they? Because it all depends on what, are you trying to destroy me or my members of my team? No? All right. As you were. You just do your thing, I'll just do mine. It was just so, I was like, it was mid-season and we're just right off the heels of everything that happened in Italy, and it's still brewing and I'm getting history, and it just made me so happy. Will saying to Hannibal, after Hannibal talked about like sharing rooms in their memory palace, like each other's, they shared a few rooms. Fuck you, Hannibal. Yeah. He asked him if he's going to miss him, and Will says, I miss my dogs. I'm not going to miss you. Mic drop. So cool. Yeah. And talked about like the killing, and he just and I think Hannibal says something like, you delighted in it, and he's just like, you delight, I tolerate, I don't have your appetite. That was the mic drop. But and then after that we go into Red Dragon territory. I loved seeing Scott Thompson come back as Special Agent Price.
There was 2 things I was hoping for this season.
I know,
and I did not get them. And I was hoping maybe even with the 3-year jump, there would be like a reason for there to be like 2 Scotts in the scene. But
there was too much happening.
But I mean, I don't know how you would really bring her in, but I just feel that I just forgot her name. Anna Klumsky played
Miriam.
In hindsight, with the story you're telling this season, I don't know how Miriam fits. But where we were in season 2, I feel like Miriam was too important of a character at the time, where I'm like, how do you not include her next season? Well, yeah, I guess now I know how you not include her next season. But I feel like if the show had gone on, I feel like there's definitely a way to have her be a part of the proceedings in some way.
Oh, there's room for her. Absolutely.
And there's room for Scott Thompson's twin brother.
Yes, I know. Well, I mean, there was a little Zoom reunion I haven't finished watching yet.
And I haven't started it yet, but I added it to my watch list.
Okay, well, this isn't a spoiler of anything, but they do have so many names, and I couldn't remember her name before. We argued over it, and we were both right. It was Beverly. She was there. The actress was there, and they were asking her about, like, people love Beverly and they want her to come back. Do you see her, maybe her twin coming in? And she jokingly just kind of said, "Oh yeah, I'd love to. If they write a twin, why not?" And then Hugh Dancy asked, "Could I have a twin?" And then they just okay, everyone gets a twin. And I was waiting for Scott Thompson to go like, "I actually have a twin."
Have a twin, and they didn't do shit.
They didn't do shit with my twin, so let's just have a twin episode. But it didn't happen. But I mean, so the discussion of twin ships is in the air. I don't know how actualized it'll be. But I'm sorry, but you have something to tell Scott Thompson if you ever meet him.
The next time I meet him.
Yeah.
Because I met him once, and I got awkward fanboy, so I have something else to stutter and be all Chris Farley in front of him over.
You're in Hannibal.
So anyone strange out there, I met Scott Thompson, and I made an embarrassment of myself. So.
Oh, one huge thing I was grateful for. Oh, you're going to tell the story?
No, fuck no. I told you all enough.
Okay.
No, but no, I forget what the line is, but they're looking at the autopsy of like the body and with the different teeth.
Okay.
Because these teeth are from an old lady, and these teeth.
Yeah, of the corpse they thought was Francis. Yeah.
Right, and they're just like they're kind of recounting. God, I forget the line. You might remember it, but like Scott Thompson kind of mimics like, "Oh no, we're not gonna," and like it was one of the few times where his character really got to just sort of be quote unquote like blatantly funny. The two of them were kind of recounting the moment.
No, I don't even remember the lines because they were full on without being outside the realm of like believability, but they were full on like. I wouldn't say comedy relief, but like heartwarming moment. Like I'm just supposed to sit there and kind of go, "You guys."
Yeah, you know? it was nice.
It was very sweet. I loved embracing that because also I finally wrote down his name because we always just called him the bearded guy.
Yeah, the other guy.
The actor's Aaron Abrams. He played Bryan, so that's an easy name to remember because it's like Bryan Fuller. Bryan.
Yeah. You call him the bearded guy. I always called him the funny one.
The funny one, right? That too.
Yeah.
But
do you have things to? Because I have some things.
Yeah, but I've said a bunch of things, so your turn. You say something.
Okay. This one's really quick, and actually they're all kind of quick. But one thing I just want to bring up as we towards the end of the Hannibal storyline was I love that it was one thing for Ronaldo to go out the window to give me some of these beats, but then to have fucking Jack show up. And to have that kind of continue into a new direction I'm not used to. And that fight was gnarly. That's all I'm going to say. It was nice to have a round two because the last round, Hannibal beat the fuck out of Jack and stabbed him in the neck. And that fight and every land, it just shutting Hannibal the fuck up. And I know the show had to keep going, but like I wanted defeat. Yeah. I wanted to see that defeat. And then to see Hannibal climb down Ronaldo's body, like, oh, it's fucking nuts. Anyway, between that fight and the guts and Will getting pushed off a train, like that was a fun episode. No,
violence is what you understand. Whoosh. Go on.
Some fun stuff happened this season with so two people that I like got on board this season. Don Mancini co-wrote 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And Neil Marshall directed the second episode of was it the second or the 8, 9, 10, 11? No, the first episode of the Red Dragon storyline.
Oh, nice.
And the second I saw Neil Marshall, I went, oh! Because The Descent is my number 2 favorite horror movie of the last 15, 20 years.
Beautiful.
And I adore dog soldiers, and the Game of Thrones people were very wise when they're like, hey, we've got some episodes that are going to require a little more than, let's bring in Neil Marshall. And he murdered the episodes he directed on Game of Thrones.
Oh, so good.
Massive. So when I saw his name on there, part of me thought, like, I know his body work as a filmmaker, but the context of when they brought him in for Game of Thrones was like, we've got this battle and we need something more than what we normally do. So I couldn't help thinking, even though it's a completely different production team, I thought, well, why'd you bring Neil Marshall in? Like, what have you got up your sleeve? And it turns out we don't have anything up our sleeve. It's just directed by Neil Marshall. But it's one of the things I like about, I find interesting about TV production is my first time experiencing this was back in the 90s, shortly after Pulp Fiction, and I think before Jackie Brown. So it'd be 94, 95. Quentin Tarantino was going to direct an episode of ER. And I'm like, oh, Quentin Tarantino's directing an episode of ER. And then you watch it, and it's just like another fucking episode of ER. One of the patients had a kind of an extra violent reason for being there. He had like a crowbar, I think, stuck in his gut. But, you know, the producers aren't going to have Quentin Tarantino come in and start having people talking about foot rubs for 10 minutes. Like it's going to be the thing. And
or even pop culture references. Yeah.
Right. You bring Kevin Smith on to direct The Flash and Supergirl, and it's just like every other episode of Flash and Supergirl.
Flash and Supergirl. Yeah.
And, you know,
Kevin Smith has even attested to as much. He says they run a tight ship there. I feel like I'm the party giver. Like I just, you know,
I heard something
making
in my
sure
early
everybody's happy.
20s. I heard this in my 20s, and I've heard different variations on this throughout my whole life. But the one that always kind of stuck, not necessarily that it's true, it's just an expression, but you always kind of hear that film is a director's medium, theater is a writer's medium, TV is a producer's medium, as far as maybe the total control. But that one thing that I do get the sense of is when you have a showrunner, when you have a series of producers guiding a show and the directors come on week to week, the crew understands the flavor and they've got the process going, and it's the director who kind of comes on week to week to keep the machine going, but it's the producers who have kind of set the tone. Maybe the director of the first few episodes who stays on as an executive producer, sometimes in name only, sometimes as a real executive producer. So when I hear that like Don Mancini is going to write a couple episodes of Hannibal, you know, on the one hand, maybe if it was an episodic thing where we are still investigating cases, you know, I'm not saying that the case would be like, and there's a fucking killer doll that eats people or something, but like you have more freedom when so-and-so, there's several examples on the X-Files where the X-Files is so monster of the week that there are certain writers that have a flavor and that those episodes stand out, that they were written by that guy. Or just, you know, like on Firefly, where like we don't have an overarching story. So yeah, here's an episode where like River talks to a cow for 2 hours or something. That's what we can allow ourselves to do. Hannibal doesn't necessarily allow for that. So even though it's exciting to see like Don Mancini's name on there, because you and I both love Child's Play franchise so much, it didn't stick out as some different thing, but I still adored it, because one of the things that I bring to it was that like his first episode that he wrote, or episode 6, so much good shit happens in it, right? We get Will and Hannibal reconnecting for the first time. We get Jack and Will meeting up again for the first time. That's the one where after Will and Hannibal met up, like they're walking and he's going to stab him and he gets shot. And I think that's the same one where we find out that Alana and
Margot
are a thing, but we find out what their true intention is. I couldn't help but just take joy in the fact that as a fan, Don Mancini's fingers were at the keyboard getting to write this. And I also couldn't help but think that I know there's not one exact way that TV shows are written. I know that there can always be different approaches in the writer's room, but from what I've heard, from what little I know, one of the most common things I've heard is writer's room gets together, we have a board, we try to map out what the season is, we try to map out what the story is, then we map out where in each episode these things occur. And then even though we as a group have thrown ideas, mapped out a story, and broken down each episode, sometimes then within that group, Bob gets assigned to that episode, Mary gets assigned to this episode.
Right.
And even when you have guest writers that can bring a certain flavor, with a show like this, not only is it one overall story that has to feel the same way, but if you ever look at the credits, each episode is always written by Bryan Fuller and someone. Or 3 people, sometimes 4 people, which I have to wonder if the idea is a showrunner then assigns each episode to a different person and then they give notes and then get approval and then we finalize that script. That's clearly not happening if 2, 3, or 4 people are writing it. So I have to wonder, like, how busy is Bryan Fuller? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
always involved with each goddamn
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
So knowing all that, to come onto a show for season 3 as a new writer, I got to give Don Mancini props because everyone is operating
Mm-hmm.
like at this fucking level. So even though there is no opportunity for you to write something where you stand out, the fact that you are able to come in and operate and maintain this fucking level,
Yeah.
is my compliment to his writing on the show. Is that it served everything it needed to serve, and he got to do it again. I think it was episode
10.
That fucking long Bedelia Will therapy scene. It goes on for like 10 minutes, and it's delicious.
Uh-huh.
That's also I remember in the first episode of the season when we have that little flashback, Bedelia's flashback with the patient, and I'm like, is that fucking Zachary Quinto on the ground?
Oh yeah.
That's got to come back, right? You don't put Zachary Quinto on the ground just as a gag, right?
Oh
so
God.
he also got to sink his fucking fingers, get his mitts all dirty with that scene. I also just felt vindicated. I think I talked about this a while ago about him choking on his own tongue.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, I was like, ugh!
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the whole arm. That was another thing that when it happened, I was just kind of like, what the fuck am I watching? I have to say, I concur with like what you're saying in terms of like success being determined by being able to continue the level and the continuity and
that high bar,
the artful,
join everyone at that high bar.
Yeah, the artfulness, because I do have to say, like, I knew a writer, and I will not say the writer's name, and I will not discuss the show that this writer ended up writing for. But I had a lot of respect for this writer. This writer got a TV show finally, and wrote an episode by their self. And when I watched the episode, it just fell flat. And I was no longer, by the time I finally got the chance to actually see the episode, I was no longer in touch with the writer. So I was actually really, really grateful, because I was like, thank God I don't have to make up anything and be like, wow, that must have been really exciting for you working with all those people.
Yeah.
You're living your dream, you know?
We've all stood outside the stage door waiting to tell our friend, like, oh my God, the show was really good.
Or even worse, you're waiting for your friend who was great, but then there's like a bevy of actors who weren't, and you just have to
They're all in earshot. Yeah.
Then but even just like they're making eye contact with you, and you don't want to lie.
Yeah.
So, hello.
Yeah.
There's my friend. Anyway, so but I mean, so it's not outside the realm of possibility to kind of drop the ball publicly on network television. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
That said, I saw episodes that this person wrote subsequently, and they were good. So sometimes you just need some training. But the thing is, Don Mancini has been doing this a long time, and I feel like I don't know the process. I don't know if, you know, like you said, like if the showrunner just kind of like throws out like assignments to these writers and then just kind of does revisions or it's more collaborative, like in a room together, hatching ideas together. I don't know what a typical day running a Hannibal series looks like for a Bryan Fuller, you know?
Right.
So, but that said, another thing that I really appreciated about, let's start with episode 6. That's also the episode that has one of my most jaw-dropping moments, where we literally cut from Hannibal sawing into Will's skull, cut immediately to Will and Hannibal upside down at the muskrat farm, and then comes Mason going, hello, gentlemen. And I'm like, what the? And I was, again, immediately grateful I didn't have to wait a week to find out what happened. I was just kind of like, fuck no, we're watching. And I'm so glad I got to figure out what happened. Also, another thing that I noticed.
That was my third Eddie moment.
Nice. I'm glad you could do that.
I'll let you go on in a moment, because the only other thing I have to say about that is just that while we're still on it, again, the show playing, I felt genuine fucking dread in that scene. Because the second I saw Jack, and I think he's bound to the chair, and I see Will there too, and I'm like, I know what's going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen. Because the last time I saw this, Will wasn't fucking around there. Not fucking around. He wasn't fucking around there. So, and since we're doing this so much earlier in the timeline, like, is Jack about to eat his own fucking brain out of his head? I do not want this. I do not want this to happen. I do not want this to occur. It's like it's everything I should have felt when I was watching like Revenge of the Sith, knowing that like Anakin's gonna get burned. Like I know what I don't want, and this fact that he approaches Will and then actually starts the saw up, I started freaking the fuck out because they didn't do anything cutesy. They actually like cut into his head a bit.
Yep. The wound is still fresh.
Right when I'm feeling everything, they're like, fuck you, here's a truck. And I'm like, wait, what? So yeah.
And here's Mason Verger.
Each storyline, first one being 7 episodes, the second one being 6 episodes. Each one, usually in the last 2 episodes, is when I kind of get snapped into what? Like I start feeling these. But anyway, go ahead. That's all. It's just my shock of that.
Well, the other one was an odd connective tissue, and I don't know how much of this is coincidence and how much of this is Bryan Fuller assigning this to Don Mancini, or because this is the one that they wrote together. I think the first one was Don Mancini and 2 other people, but so I wish I knew if either Don volunteered for this or if it was even written or if it was just like directors taking the opportunity to kind of like play with moments, because they could be scripted, they could be heavily storyboarded, but they could also, they could be a lot of things. In episode 6, and it's twice, in episode 6, it's the love scene between Alana and Margot, because we don't just get a reveal that they're together, we get another kaleidoscopic kind of, expose of how into each other they are. I appreciated it. And I'm a Kinsey 5.9 with a line over it. So, so I'm not sitting there going like, yeah, but I was sitting there going like, get it, girl. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this. And then in episode 10, these are the only 2 scenes in the entire series of their nature, in terms of like, not just eroticism, but, a sexual act being performed. And in episode 10, it was with Reba and Francis with the blowjob. And then, not with the blowjob, with the sex, with the actual sex. And then when she's on top of him and everything like that. And then she's, glowing with everything. And it was, again, it was the only time, I think, in the entire season that I saw Dee with Reba where I wasn't afraid for her, because I was watching him not know what he was feeling, but definitely feel something.
Right, and Dee was feeling it, not the dragon was feeling it.
But also dragon must be somewhere there, because he's seeing her in this hallucinatory kind of halo. She looks like this sun goddess astride him, and I was all about it. I was so happy that, again, we're talking about network television, like, sexy stuff on HBO or Showtime or, what have you is not all that uncommon. I mean, I still remember 20 years ago when Queer as Folk was a thing, the American version. And, pretty much by the episode, there were at least, I'd say, a couple instances where, ooh, look, half nudity, rear nudity, woman on woman, hey, something new. And, so I mean, it wasn't just about, again, eroticism, but it definitely was erotic. And it definitely felt in both cases, and this could also just be attributed to the direction, or Bryan Fuller, or who knows? Maybe there are sequences written in the scripts for 6 and 10, but definitely more just easier to digest as a viewer than the first thing I thought was Hannibal and Will kind of sharing the two women and ultimately sharing Alana, in that trippy
Oh yeah.
sex scene in season 2, which in memory still is a bump for me. It's still kind of like I don't know if I would have done it that way. And then we go to these two, which don't need to be there, but I really like them being there. They both feel like they're giving me an extra layer. I'm getting extra insight into Alana and Margot, because it's not just like an unholy alliance to undo a great wrong or anything like
Right.
that. There is
Actually care about each other.
there is actual and passion. There's again
Yes.
like a passion that they're sharing that I can recognize, like, oh look, a much healthier manifestation. I wouldn't say completely healthy, because they are conspiring to murder somebody, but I get it because I've been watching the
so
show.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's great when bad things happen to bad people.
But and then again, like the fact that I for like one sequence I get to watch Dee with Reba and not be afraid for either of them, just be kind of sad, because if things take the route that they take in Red Dragon, I know this isn't going to end in him healing all of his, wounds and going off with her and living a fulfilling life. I was grateful for the exchange. And I think, I can't remember in Red Dragon if there's an Emily Watson, Edward Norton scene, but, and I don't know if you remember in Manhunter if there's a scene between Reba and Will, but I was really grateful after everything, when she was in the hospital bed, for him to talk to her and for her to feel like she attracts, a particular type of person. And he's listening through a whole other lens, or you don't listen through a lens. He's hearing her through a whole other sieve, I don't know, ear horn, filter. Maybe, do you hear through a filter? Whatever. He hears her in a different way than he ever has before, because of everything that's preceded, because he has more faith in her ability to attract somebody who's going to be right for her and good for her and kind of productive for the life she's seeking than he does in his own ability to even kind of navigate what the fuck he wants at this point. And I appreciated that also. Not related to episode 10, but yeah, that was something I noticed. Also, did I take any other notes for? Oh! Okay, how could I forget? Another exchange between Bedelia and Will. I love the fact that she just says the word, I obfuscate. And he talks about her lying, and she says, I obfuscate. But I also love this was one of my favorite things, actually, of the season. Can't believe I haven't discussed it yet. The wounded bird. Bedelia's story.
Shit.
When and I feel like Will is the case of like where she says, what would you do if you saw the bird? And he says he would help it. And Bedelia says she, for the same reasons as him, like same motive, like, to save it, she would crush it.
Yeah.
And I love that even, it's something so simple. It goes back to that Hitchcockian thing, but I mean, they were doing it long before Psycho, with like, white hats versus black hats in cowboy movies and everything like that. Or Marion Crane in Psycho's white bra before she became a thief, and then her black bra after. Bedelia is wearing a white blouse in her Zachary Quinto flashback arm down the throat scene. And after, when she's discussing it with Will, discussing the fact that she would crush it and she would do it again, she's wearing a black, I don't even know if it's a blouse, it's just a black top. It looks like a thicker layer on her. But the fact that Bedelia crushed her victim, like now I see I gain that insight into her. Like, finally, I already feel like I've gained so much insight into what actually happened in that room, but now I even see it through her eyes. I understand why she sees the need to hide it, but she doesn't experience any, or doesn't, I won't say doesn't experience, because who knows, doesn't claim or own up to any shame associated with it, because she tried to keep him still. She tried to help him. He wouldn't let her. So she crushed him. And that put him out of his misery. And as long as she can tell herself that that's what she did, she'd do it again. And she believes that that's what Will needs to do, you know? And also, I think it's a good way. It goes on again, feeding that tapestry, that rich tapestry, season 3 tapestry, and really whole the whole series tapestry that they've been weaving of the competition between Will and Bedelia and any kind of recruits, shall we say, of Hannibal, because if she can encourage him to kill, to shall we say obfuscate, then maybe he'll do that to Hannibal, or at least try, and continue to antagonize him and push him away and wound him so he won't be competition anymore. It just feels layers upon layers of fucked up, and I'm here for it.
I can't remember, there was, my brain's mush, but there was a line that she said to him in one of their earlier sessions that he throws back at her, I think in their last one. Mm-hmm. But I just...
Well, let me see.
Hopefully you have it. It's a good moment. That's all I'm getting at.
Will's using what now? Will's hands watching Chilton. No, I got a lot of Chilton here.
Anyway, it's a good callback. It
was. I know what you're talking about, but I need to see this multiple times. I feel so ashamed because at the Paley Fest they did a quiz for like the minutia, like, you know, like what you and I might feel is minutia, names and places within like
what city that they were
exactly shit like that, and people knew, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to become a Fannibal. I don't deserve the moniker of Fannibal yet. I need to, and I will
a few more times.
I mean, especially season 3. I did make a note really early on that I think I could watch season 3 especially, but the whole series really. But season 3, I feel like I could watch it 10 or 15 times and still find symbolism and
I could feel like I could watch
parallels.
The show and
yes, absolutely,
more and more. One little thing I'm wondering about that I wrote. I had a question. I just want to know I just want to know the intent. I just want to know if I ever met Bryan Fuller. I could only have one question. This would be my question. In episode 11, because in the show, Hannibal and Dollarhide only communicate over the phone. Yet in both versions of the movie, he takes out an ad, a coded ad in the paper, and there's a hidden piece of toilet paper with the writing on it, and then they go and they scan to find the missing letters of the piece that was ripped off. And there's a line in episode 11 about how they communicate. He's like, what do you think? It's just ads in the paper and little notes on toilet paper? And I remember going, is that a dig at the movies? Or is that just a fun reference to the movies because we're not doing that thing in this show?
A little bit of both.
That'd be my question.
A little bit of both is healthy. That would be
because I know
question.
Because I know that Manhunter takes liberties with the text, and then in my opinion, Red Dragon just sucks balls as a movie. So like I feel like there hasn't been like if you love the book, I feel like you maybe haven't gotten what you wanted on screen yet. So maybe that is just a minor thing of separating themselves. I don't know.
Only things I have left are regarding the 2 things. because there's one thing I didn't address in season 2 that I actually kind of regret, because I noticed, oh, we're really rectifying that in the Red Dragon section of season 3. In the beginning of season 2, when somebody literally tells Hannibal to his face, "You're the new Will Graham," I think it's within the same scene. He's in like the morgue or whatever, with Scott Thompson and with Aaron Abrams and with Jack. And he kind of walks over to the corpse to like observe something, and they need to show something to Jack. So he starts to turn away, and then he stumbles. And we haven't seen throughout the entire first season Hannibal really stumble over anything or get in anybody's way and have like that awkward kind of, oh, are you,
Right.
are you? But he does. And it felt spontaneous, but it also felt planned. Like, like good for them for capturing it, but it did feel like it was, in the script. Because it was too good. I was almost kind of like, no, Hannibal being Will won't suit him. He can't, because he lacks kind of everything that are Will's strengths in his position. Hannibal, and then what I loved was in the next moment when nobody's watching, Hannibal sniffs deeply the corpse and finds some kind of lead that he then follows, and we go from there. And I remember writing then, Hannibal just needs to be Hannibal. And I can't believe I was writing that, because I don't want criminals to be out manipulating people, killing people, eating people, what have you. But that weird little cheerleader, that mom, that soccer mom in my heart is still kind of like, how's Hannibal? How's he doing? Is he using his gift yet? Because he shouldn't keep trying to be like Will Graham. Will Graham is Will Graham, and he has his strengths, and Hannibal has his good points too. He just needs to learn to use them. And I feel like one thing that I observed, and it wasn't just in Red Dragon, it was actually all of season 3, I was just kind of like, Hannibal has moved to a new level of confidence, because this is like Hannibal, because he's interacting with somebody with whom he has absolutely no secrets now, in particular, because there was a certain air of restraint in his Bedelia sessions in season 1, certainly, and in season 2, especially when she tried to break ties with him. Season 3, there's a different kind of tension, but he's not feeling it. He's the one manufacturing it for her, almost. Like, yeah. He's such a bully. So I appreciated like him in his ill-fitting person suit in the beginning of season 2, only to find him in one of the most luxuriously elaborate suits he wore in the entire series in season 3, the reverse Beetlejuice black and white stripes, vertical stripes, and I was just kind of like, okay, that's the first time I'm doing a Hannibal suit, because it doesn't quite look right, yet at the same time it's a note higher. It's not quite so subtle and like tasteful and in the background. It's, I'm here, it's got a theatricality to it. Also, it's Italy. He's feeling the city. I get it.
Sure. Yeah.
Going for a jauntier kind of like, look at me, peacock, if you will. And I appreciated that. And the last thing I really appreciated, this was a line in right before they went in to have their final drink before the gunshot, and then the kill of Francis of D, or the Red Dragon. They're both standing there on the cliff, and they're just watching it, and they're talking about how different it is. And I believe Hannibal is the one who says, "The bluff is eroding." Mm-hmm. And I just liked the way he said it, because I don't hear people use the word bluff enough, so I wrote it down. The second I wrote it down, though, I thought, bluff? I mean, like lie. Like, the bluff is eroding.
Yeah. That's good shit.
I love you, show, because we're going to get some truth, aren't we? We're very near the end.
And then they got some fucking truth.
Mm-hmm. And, and I also really appreciated the blood wings coming out of D as he lay there. I was just kind of like, I mean, it seems it seems obvious, but at the moment I was just kind of like, nice. You know, it really hit. It worked perfectly for the moment. And I just wrote fucking hot. and, and I wrote season 1, kind of gay. Season 2, pretty gay. And season 3, so gay. And that's all in a really, really good way. So I think that's me.
I agree with you. I didn't give enough props though to Tara from True Blood. I completely agree with you, brought fucking everything to every scene. Earned her paycheck and gave me so much more that I didn't, only knowing her from True Blood, I did not know she had all that in her. So awesome.
It was lovely to see her.
And I adore her in True Blood.
Yeah.
But
God, how can you not?
Right? Yeah. I will say this. I only know Richard Armitage from the Hobbit movies.
Oh, yes.
And I forget what else I know him from, but mostly the Hobbit movies.
He's done a few things. I looked up his credits. I can't remember them right now, but he's worked.
Yeah.
The man has worked.
And I've always been aware of his name.
Yes.
The second I saw him on screen, I just went, Richard Armitage? Well, this is going to be interesting. Okay, all right. Because there's one thing you can't deny about the Thomas Harris media is that they always, there's never been a boring dollar hide. I mean, Ray Fiennes, say what you want about the movie, but they got Ray goddamn Fiennes to be in it. I love Tom Noonan, and I always will. And between those two guys, I'm like, that's an interesting bar to clear, you know. But Mads also clears it compared to Anthony Hopkins. It's a completely different approach.
Yeah.
But, again,
but it works.
But when we meet Hannibal in those movies, everybody knows who Hannibal is. The fun thing about this show, at least for the first 2 seasons, is that it's a human suit. It's pretend. People don't know the monster he is yet. It's a different sort of thing. So anyway, I wouldn't say nervous, but I'm like, what are we gonna do here? But I mean, Richard Armitage is fucking rad this season.
Yeah.
Just rad.
Yeah.
And
I'll probably underrated because, like, I mean, we've mentioned him and his characters and like things that they've done, but we haven't really talked about him yet, and I don't know how long we've been talking, but it's like, I feel like it's kind of a thankless role in the sense that that's not really what people talk about when they even discuss like Red Dragon or Manhunter. I didn't even know that Tom Noonan played it in Manhunter, so that's exciting. But
yeah,
so I mean, but you have to do it. In order for everything to function, you have to show up and you have to do your job. It's the less flashy role, so it's the one that a lot less people, I think, are going to walk away with a big impact. But I think he did an incredible job. Allow
yourself into that story, it's still an important role, a juicy role. And it takes a certain amount of approach to treat enough research, character research, and also just preparation, I think is the word I'm looking for here.
Yes.
When the script calls for, well, he looks in the mirror and grunts. We've seen lesser performances of people, get a certain degree of.
Yeah. It's so easy to get wrong.
Right. And he brings 110% to it. And it is such a far cry from Thor and Oakenshield, So like this just amplified. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
One little thing. First of all, I was delighted as all hell to have Catherine Isabel back. From last time we know, I want Catherine Isabel to be in everything. I do want to point out, though, that last time when I was suggesting that if you want to see something of hers, it's a solo film, I think I was recommending 88. And then we ended our conversation, and I'm like, she was American Mary, you idiot. If you're going to recommend a movie that stars Catherine Isabel,
I do have
make
to see
people watch American Mary.
All right.
That's a fucking lead role. That's a performance. It's directed by the Soska
Nice.
sisters.
Oh, cool.
Go see fucking American Mary, because that, god damn. So anyway, I have to correct myself from last time. If there's anyone from last time that was listening going, why the fuck aren't you recommending American Mary? Fuck.
You've made your amends.
there was I did. There was a show that Jim Rash had. I think it was on IFC or maybe Bravo, like in 2013, 2014. It was called The Writer's Room, where Jim would sit. I think it was like fresh after like winning the Oscar for Sideways, where like he would sit down and it would be like the showrunner and then like 3 or 5 or whoever many writers of a show, and they would discuss the process of writing. And it was like an episode of Breaking Bad. They did an episode of like Walking Dead. Did an episode on like American Horror Story, which was
nice,
fascinating.
Oh, okay.
You want about American Horror Story, but to actually like hear what the process is of being in a Ryan Murphy writer's room, I was just like, huh.
Okay.
I only wish that show was around now, because I would give up like that much of my finger just to have Bryan Fuller sit down and bring on some of the writers and get Don Mancini down and let's just talk about fucking writing the show.
Luckily there are commentaries on the Blu-ray, which I know I'm going to buy. I'm going to get. There is a complete series. It's basically like just it's a compilation of just like the season 1, season 2, season 3 that they already released, just all bound in something. So that's pretty cool. But it seems like it's like loaded, just absolutely loaded with special features. So that's the next step. Because I thought initially the next step was that they were whetting my appetite to go back and read the books, which I will at some point, but I can't do it yet because it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah.
I'm not over this show yet. I need some time.
I want you to watch Manhunter someday, but I would recommend.
I will. Yeah.
But don't watch it anytime soon.
No.
Because this version of Will and this flavor and this relationship and like don't let the two flavors mingle and inform your fuck that. Don't.
I need to reach for it when I'm craving something familiar yet new.
Watch Manhunter in like a year.
Okay.
Not any sooner than that.
I'm thinking maybe the spring, but okay, we'll see. Okay. We'll see. I may need it. I may need it in the spring. Who knows? But yeah. By next year. By this time next year, I'll have seen it. Maybe we can do a Red Dragon versus Manhunter discussion in a year.
Or in the watch spring. Red Dragon again, doesn't it? I don't want to give Brett Ratner another 2 hours of my life.
All right. Then we won't.
Sorry, but he's taken so much more from other people. I don't want to give him any of my time. Oh, there go my earbuds. That's how
my! You're so like they're leaping from your head, going, "No, not Brett Ratner."
Just like how people should have leapt from trailers that they were in with Brett Ratner. So, one thing.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring it down, but one of the sad things about the show ending, not sad because it was very satisfying. If these are the only 3 we get, what a fucking great note to end on. God damn. But considering how we spent 7 episodes in Italy, and then we spent 6 episodes just focusing on the Tooth Fairy and spending so much time in Dollarhide's mind, compared to the first 2 seasons where we got to like go to the FBI and Scott Thompson would bicker with this guy, and it became a different thing while still maintaining.
Yeah.
I would love to see 4 more seasons and what next phases that it wouldn't link up to and feel different from. And you know what I mean? What would it be becoming?
I would only want to see 4 more seasons if Bryan Fuller had 4 more seasons in him, because since 3 is a composite of his original plan for 3 and 4.
Yeah, I don't need exactly 7.
Yeah.
But clearly the show was in its own way becoming the next thing. I just want to see what that would like. I would love to have seen what they did with science.
Yeah. There is one part of me that when I first heard that Mads was kind of game because the fans are certainly game. The Fanibals certainly game for a season 4. There was a little part of my heart sinking a bit because I really, really adored how it ended, and when I saw it, I thought it was the end. So it just felt like perfection. That said, the second I hear that there's a season 4 like in production, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
You know, whenever it gets released, I don't know if I'll be able to watch it 1 week at a time if it does a network thing, but also I don't think the network is the one that they're like kind of like I don't know what the future is for it, or if there's a future in the real world. But if there is, I'm there. I want to see what happens.
And if the numbers on Netflix, because it's on Netflix somewhat recent, so if the numbers are there to support investing in it, God bless it.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. If there's a season 4, pretty much if Bryan Fuller's name is on a thing, I will watch at some point. Like I remember people had said Hannibal was good, and it wasn't until we were it was suggested to us that we go watch it. But I had always planned on getting to it at some point because Bryan Fuller's name is on it. Same thing with American Gods. Like, you tell me Neil Gaiman and Bryan Fuller, I'm gonna go watch American Gods. Maybe not like there's a million shows I still need to get to, but it's like anything, like any great show, the kind that elevates beyond, breaks through the boundaries of what the medium is, where critics love it and fans love it. Of course it gets fucking canceled.
Yeah.
It's still a business, and you still have to get generate enough ads, and and I get it, but there's too many shows that I love that I consider too good for this world, and Hannibal joins to me another one by Bryan Fuller, Pushing Daisies, that was just too fucking good for TV. We almost, I feel like we do deserve it, but I'm just saying we didn't deserve it. Yeah. I do want to point out that the song that I would sing to myself.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's the reason why it's third is because, unlike the other ones where I've had versions of it in my head my whole life, this one is somewhat. It has very little. It's more something I kind of hum. I don't have full lyrics for it.
Okay.
But do you ever watch Gallivant?
No.
He froze. Have you ever heard of Gallivant?
No.
Oh, okay.
What is that? What is it?
Gallivant.
Is it BBC?
No, it's ABC.
Oh, then that's why I don't have network. I don't have satellite, so I don't get network TV unless it streams.
People talk about stuff. I need to look up really quick. My brain is turning into mush as far as who wrote the songs for it. But it was Alan Menken.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm like, it's someone huge that I'm forgetting. Gallivant was an ABC, like, medieval musical comedy.
I remember hearing about that.
Alan Menken, it was totally musical. And they had some fabulous guest stars. Kylie Minogue showed up. Weird Al showed up.
Oh, God.
It's. I hesitate to loosely throw the comparison, but like Spamalot, like as far as nights and funny songs. But like it had like a do 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 do, and now we're going to watch Hannibal. Do 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 do, and I just get my remote. Do 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 do. It's time to watch Hannibal. Do 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 do. It's time to watch the show and tell the tale of Hannibal. Do 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 do, and that would just jump in my head. Gallivant, Hannibal. I had so many 3-syllable songs that I would try to find, but there'd always be words like cabaret, To Hannibal, oh Hannibal. But it's funnier when it's a name. And Gallivant, Mary the Librarian, and Oliver are all 3-syllable musical names.
Camelot.
Yeah, that's a
Hannibal. Hannibal.
Yeah,
Will Graham loves you so. Will Graham loves you so. Hannibal. Hannibal. And now you gotta go. And now you gotta go. I don't know.
Didn't Randy Rainbow just did like Camelot like a week ago?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually thought, speaking of, I started like, attend the tale of Hannibal. His skin was pale and his belly was full. He ate the faces of gentlemen who were there never
were heard of again. He, I don't know, fought the knights and braved the bull, did Hannibal. The demon psychiatrist of
yeah, there's too many syllables.
Buffalo. Doesn't really work. It's late. We're exhausted. But it's also just about like kind of being punch drunk. I mean, I finished it last night.
Yeah, me too.
I've had that just exchange of them just falling into each other, just like repeating in my head every couple hours ever since I saw it. And then I juxtaposed with Bedelia just
yeah.
And I'm like, I can't get this shit out of my head. It's been a day.
I know that fucking grimace, that fucking twinkly-eyed, and it's so not only is it the prom date who's not going to get picked up, but it's like he's never going to love you as much as he loves Will. Like,
but she doesn't even know. It's pathetic because she doesn't know anything. I mean, again, you bringing up even mentioning like the thought of like him coming by, like in actuality, like her expecting him for a reason, like maybe he did catch a branch or just not die and just, hey, I'm coming. And then she's just like, he's coming. And but I like the moment more if it's
I don't expect he
not if there's
I just think that she got prepped and ready and waiting.
So that
and
fucking people.
I know we're supposed to be done, but I never would have guessed like Gillian Anderson's, I think she's in American Gods, but like we got so much from her already, and how great for her to have this on her fucking resume, to have this on her body of work, to be able to give us this. This is a fucking treat. Every once in a while, I look at certain careers or certain actors or directors where I go, "You gave it. Like we're good." Like my greatest allegory I can give you is Scorsese already gave us Taxi Driver and Mean Streets and Goodfellas and so much that when we got to like the 2000s after Gangs of New York, I'm just like, you're done. Like it's whatever you do now, it's great, but you'll always give us. And then he gave us Hugo, and I'm like, what the fuck, Martin Scorsese? You still got this much juice in you? And then he gave us Wolf of Wall Street, and I'm like, you can stop. You already have. Jesus, you know? And I feel like with Gillian Anderson, like I didn't, she's earned, but the fact that she gave me a Hugo, I'm like, God damn, Gillian Anderson.
Well, because this is another thing. Like she was always someone whose work I totally appreciated because like most of the world, I discovered her on X-Files, like, you know, like most of the world, and thought, great. I mean, I love her. I love Scully, and I love watching her interaction with David Duchovny and what her character stands for. There are some episodes I need to go back and revisit that show now that I think about it, because I've never revisited it. I only saw it when it aired originally, and I haven't even seen every episode, so I got to go back. That said, she was always somebody who I loved what I was getting and always wanted more from. I remember even seeing a movie you and I have discussed that I'm not, you know, particularly partial to, but I love her performance in it. Find My Heart.
Yeah.
I love what she did in it. Like, I just loved an actress who was given a task like, here, play this scene convincingly. She did it. No, the scene within the context of a broader story you and I have already talked about, we won't go there. But I was just like, oh my God, look, she's not Scully. She's somebody else. Good for her. And then I know she had done like an indie film here, a play there, and I just kept not catching them. I even know she did a West End production of Streetcar Named Desire, like in the last 5 years, with Ben Foster as her Stanley Kowalski. I would really love to watch, now that I've seen her play Mad in this, I would really love to watch her descent into madness in Streetcar. And truthfully, like, I would really love to watch her, play anything.
She was really good in playing by heart, and there's that, and I think it's also, there's that period where, you know, the Weinsteins were treating Miramax like the way old Hollywood did, where they would just contract an actor for like a 3 or 5 picture deal and just stick them in a bunch of things. She was also in a movie they made called The Mighty with
Sharon Stone?
Sharon Stone.
I haven't seen that, but I know about it. I need to watch it.
Oh, it's good. I am very fond of it. I read the book when I was a kid. It's a really sweet story. It's a fucking you might feel things and do Eddie gestures.
Yeah, I know. I've seen parts.
She plays trash in it. Like, she's just like, the volume of her hair and like her big fucking earrings, and just like, it borders a bit. It could have been cartoony if she pushed it any harder. And it's unlike any performance. I fucking love her. She's so trash in that movie. It's great. It's worth watching just for her like 10 minutes of screen time. Oh, it's good.
Okay.
Anyway, yay.
Jesus.
Bill
Hannibal, big ol' yay.
Oh, Cannibal to Hannibal.
Life is a Hannibal, old chum. Come to the Hannibal. Hannibal, like an amphitheater built for worshiping Hannibal. That was one thing I didn't get to talk about. The church. I adored the church because at one point I just wrote a note when Will and Hannibal were having their exchange, and they're like in his office, and then they're in the cell, but then they're in the church, and then they're back in the cell. And I was just like, is this church because it's a place where they felt a connection, like The Office, or is this like the church of Hannibal? You know, like because Hannibal's standing behind, you know, like where the priest stands, but not even where the priest stands. Usually where Jesus is doing his thing. And I was just kind of like, and Will is like, you know, paying homage to, you know, does everything but kneel and like kiss a rosary that has a little H on it, you know? And I was just kind of like, it again, just more questions. I may just have more questions the more I watch. Questions that feel like insight, but then end in question marks, so they don't really end with, you know, a solution or an answer.
Right.
Okay. I don't even know what I'm saying.
I have a feeling after this, I'm going to start reading some website articles, the interviews in the blog, the fanables, like going down the rabbit holes of dissection and really getting to enjoy all the YouTube videos and blog posts and blah, blah, blah.
But the little research that I did do, this won't take long. Michael Pitt apparently didn't want to come back. Didn't want to, apparently. That was the story at the time, where they're just like, Michael Pitt not returning for season 3. And I read, I think, 4 articles, and all of them said no answer was given as to why, because he wasn't working on another project. And then I read the IMDb thing, the first appearance of Joe Anderson, and it basically just said Michael Pitt couldn't take it because he had other commitments. And I was like, well, okay, IMDb, I mean, why am I even reading you? Because that's not true. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it is, who knows. It was interesting to me, though, because, you know, sometimes things happen. That's all I want to say about it.
Well, we got to get Joe Anderson out of it.
Yeah, my God, did we? I haven't seen the Hobbit movies, so maybe I'll watch the Hobbit trilogy finally.
Okay.
He's not in it, but
Armitage is.
Armitage is. I'm mixing everything up now. Oh, I need to rewatch Across the Universe because I saw the movie, but I haven't seen it in ages. I know you don't. Okay, then I'll rewatch The Ruins.
He is so fucking present in The Ruins.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that on paper may not be the flashiest role, but I mean, he stands the fuck out in that movie.
Good.
But yeah, who am I to just, go watch Across the Universe. The music is very well produced. That's the only nice thing I'll say about it, is the producers crafted a really great soundtrack. And Eddie Izzard shows up in it, so you have a nice little reunion there. Not on screen. and I'm trying to find something nice here about The Hobbit. Besides, I lost Eddie for a second.
Don't do it on my account.
Well, okay. Here's the obvious things.
Oh God.
No. The set design is impeccable.
Nice.
The costumes are amazing. The photography is very nice. But it's got a hell of a cast. You put you bring back Cate Blanchett, Ian McKellen, but you also add like Richard Armitage. You add fucking Lee Pace. Like you get
Lee Pace. I know. Yeah.
It's my brain is slipping all of a sudden, but fucking.
It's okay.
No, the guy plays Bilbo, and he was on The Office, and he's in Black Panther, and he's fucking
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman. Like, the cast in that movie is a goddamn delight.
All right.
That's all I'll say about that.
And on that note, I give Hannibal an A+.
Me too. I'm going to not think about The Hobbit and say, yay, Hannibal.
Yeah, I don't think I should watch it right now. I'm too. That's the thing. Is like it's. I'm gonna wait a while before I start another series because, I feel like I fell in love a little bit, with this product, like the whole thing. I really appreciate it for multiple reasons. I feel like the more I learn about it, the more I'm going to appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And I'm whether it continues or not.
We have 3 Sublime seasons. Yeah.
Yes, we do. So I'll take more if there's more, but if that's
I feel the same way like about Firefly. Like, you can try to get Firefly back together all you want, but like, we have that perfect first season in a movie. Like, maybe all we needed was that one great season. Yeah. I honestly, they make, I don't know if you know this from my channel, but I collect Funko Pops. Or just, but they made Hannibal Pops.
Oh,
and they're totes cute. They make Hannibal. They make Jack. They make Will, like in his like season 1, like green jacket.
Oh, okay.
They also do Will. Thing. And then they have like the black skin horned Wendigo. Those are the 5. And I'm like, yeah. And then I remember, look at your face. Yeah. They're pretty cool. But what I was going to get to was, I think it was 2015, whatever year. I think it was like around season 2 of Hannibal at Comic-Con. I think the Pops had also just come out around that time, but they'd made a very limited run. Honestly, I think it was like 100 of them, of Bryan Fuller.
Oh!
And it was like a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Pop of Bryan Fuller, and you could go to like a signing and he would sign them. And it was just like 100 or 120 Bryan Fuller Pops.
Oh my God.
And now that I've watched this show, I'd be like, oh, fuck. If I'd have known, I would have tried. I would try to get in that line. I would kill for it. Because I think it's like the Hannibal body, just the suit's painted a different color, but it's like holding a little knife, but it's Bryan Fuller's head dressed as Hannibal. It's good.
Oh,
they did something similar where they made like a Mark Hamill pop, but it's Mark Hamill's head on the animated Joker's body, and I'm like, see, that's cute.
That's another thing I have to check out. I think we touched on it we speculated about it in the first season breakdown, where we were talking about there's got to be fan art of like Will with a Patronus stag, and apparently I haven't even started yet. That's another thing I need to just kind of like dip my toe in this week, but even just at Paley Fest, this one woman brought books of her art for Hugh Dancy and for Mads, and then she had portraits she did of why don't I know Alana's name?
Alana actress.
I need to know her name. Alana. I have it somewhere in my notes, but I'm not going to look for it right now. Or I am, but I'm going to keep talking, so I'm not. You don't just watch me looking for it. But of Alana actress and of God, Jack Crawford. I am really losing my memory right now. Lawrence Fishburne. She did a portrait of him, and she did a portrait of Bryan Fuller for him, and she handed it to him. And they all just, for a second, were all just like staring at, like, Mads and Hugh are just like flipping through their books, and it's just super cute.
I may have talked about
Anna Klumsky. Yes.
I talked about fan art of Will and Patronus, the stag. Now I just want to see fan art of them embracing atop the bluff. Because there's whatever product, there's so much, like, I guarantee you there is fan art of the two of them hugging. Guarantee it.
Don't.
Also, a fun thing I've just found out today. Did you know that Hugh Dancy and Mads Mikkelsen are like old buds?
Oh yeah, no, I saw them talk about it in
years?
the Paley Fest interview. Okay. Yeah,
like they met like on that shitty King Arthur movie.
Mm-hmm. And they still, like Mads said, like whenever he's in England, he rings up Hugh and they have, you know, dinner and catch up and stuff like that. Yeah, like Hugh was the one, because he had already been hired, and he was actually I don't think he actually suggested Mads. I think they were like, we're looking at Mads and I know you work with him, how would you feel about these? Like, oh yeah.
Well,
he'd be perfect.
I mean, I know acting, whether you know someone or whether there's history or not, but I mean, the fact that they've been buds for like 10 years doesn't surprise me at all when I find out. Yeah. Also, I just recently found out that Mads Mikkelsen was originally, not originally, but like he transitioned like as a choice or not, I don't know. But I just know that he has a gymnastics and dancer background. And like did it for quite a while before becoming an actor. And I'm like, I get that. Okay.
The less I say, the better.
Think about the children, the little bambinos in their ears.
The little bambinos.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They're asleep. They can't hear me now. But no, that's great.
Yeah. Go look that up more. Do your own research on that. And on that note, it's been fun.
I mean, it's been terrible. It's been gut-wrenching. It's been shocking. It's been everything under the sun.
Feeling feelings is fun. The world is a fucking dumpster fire right now. And it was nice to get away from that. And also, I feel like we've tried to end this like 10 times. During the day, I'll watch something with Tracy. Mm-hmm. And then like at night, I have a few hours to myself where I watch Hannibal. And we were watching Battlestar when we started this with season 1. And then it took only like a day, but we watched Snuffbox. But we've been watching fucking The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh.
Which, like, it's a great show. But goddamn, it's a massive bummer of a show.
Yep.
So it's quite a relief to then shut that off, you know, pour myself a drink and watch a guy like eat someone's fucking leg. Isn't
that odd?
Puts a real spring in my step. So
no, I mean, but that's really saying something though, because I mean, these are unsavory things. I feel like different directors and different, in the hands of different, you know, teams entirely. It's not just a director, but in the hands of, you know, different teams putting it together behind the camera, in front of the camera. These stories, you know, that have been retold or and then told the back end or told the front end, you know, whatever. I've yet to see a version that I felt was like completely unpalatable, like oh my God, this is disgusting, I can't watch this anymore. they're always interesting for, you know, one reason or another, you know, whether I think they're incredible or whether I think, you know, oh well, I have some notes. um but for a show to be built around it, I mean, I'm grateful that it
Did you
came
know
out.
that Brett
Yeah.
Ratner directed one? There's one that's
Of these?
Brett Ratner. No, just the Hannibal series.
He did?
No, yeah, Red Dragon.
No, I know. Wait, what?
I'm just being a dick.
I can't even perceive it now. You can't be a dick like that elliptically. You have to like just be full on like, hey Eddie, look at me. I go on forever. I never stop talking. I'm Eddie. Like, do that.
Oh, okay. I'll do it in that voice.
Because then I'll just be like, you dick. Because, you know, I didn't understand what you were even doing. So we're at the point where I'm critiquing your insults.
Proceed. It's okay. By the way, I'm not taking your critique. It just it doesn't even register.
You know what? I was going to say that is so Hannibal of you, but you know what I'm really, really grateful for?
When we hug?
No.
Okay.
No, not in that way. Ugh, no, don't
Anyway.
Don't do that. Because what I was just going to say is that I think we kicked this whole thing off with me calling you Hannibal.
Yeah.
And you calling me Will after season 1. You know what? I can't do that anymore. I mean, I can call you Hannibal if you piss me off. But you're not my Hannibal, Giancarlos.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah, I know who your Hannibal is.
Yeah, sucks, but it's okay. I'll be all right. Will's doing okay.
Yeah.
Pandemic living.
Yeah.
I got other shit. I got other shit on my plate. I don't need a Hannibal anymore.
Yeah, well, this is a fun experiment to do a full show. We will resume
movies.
a movie, because that way, if I watch a movie the day before, I'll still remember it. Whereas if I spend a week watching the show, I'll probably remember the last episodes, but I have to go back to watch the fucking first episode, or at least highlights from it that I watched a week or a week and a half ago. So
I would do a show again, but not for a while. I mean, especially
not complaining.
Like, no, not at all.
Totally, I mean,
this was an incredible experience, but it did require a lot of planning, you know, just as far as like watching schedule, and then all the note taking, and then all the like, okay, which note do I share here? And now it's late and our brains are deteriorating. So it's as opposed to movies that we grew up with.
Right. You know? Where my notes are like, zombie bit that girl. Oh, look, her boobs, you know, like.
Right. Or not even, oh, look. Oh yeah, her boobs. Like, you know, you remember, you don't have to, notes are just there as kind of like a guide rather than.
I never forgot. It's okay.
Yeah, right.
I have a photo book.
Never forgot her boobs. Look at them. Okay, what are we doing?
The end of my autobiography, you know. And I never forgot her boobs. The end.
Oh my god.
Bye.
I am red. I just like, oh my god.
Hey, you talk a lot about like hunky dudes and stuff, and I never bring up boobies and stuff, but
I don't talk about their dicks. Like, oh, I did want to say one thing. I wasn't even
citing anyone's boobs. It was just a joke.
I did write something I didn't read. It's about Hannibal. It's Hannibal related while I was watching it. And it was, I think it was right after the Bedelia moment. It was the first thing I thought. I don't even have to look at my notes because I just remember thinking, oh, and it scribbled. It's not that Hannibal's dick is big. It's that Hannibal's dick is perfect. And the thing is, it was meant to be more poetic. I wasn't even talking about his dick. It was just about, you know, him, like Hannibal. It's not about the fact that like, hey, I got a big dick, or like, hey, I'm all distant and stand up. No, it's just that he makes himself into the ideal of whomever is beholding him by appealing to their darkest avenues, their, you know, those internal places that people don't share, and he just casts light on them, and and asks you about them. And that's forced intimacy. I know that now.
And that's what, yeah.
There you go, kids.
There you go.
Take that with you. Hashtag.
Eddie's notes. Perfect dick. Hashtag perfect dick.
Giancarlo's autobiography. Boobs. And on that note, boys and girls.
Bye.
Bye.
Boobs.
Dick.